We are going to come. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 102nd episode of the Comic Shop Talk. How are you all doing tonight? Vince Womack, my guy. Vince, how you doing, Vince? What's up, John Capola? David Glenn, what's going on? D. Bud Martin, hello, hello. RSQ 001. What's up, RSQ? Nice to see you here. And welcome to the Comic Shop Talk 6 Nations 31 Kings. Says, hail, chat. Bruce recommended I swing by, check out your channel next. So here I am, liking what I've seen so far. Well, thank you for checking out Six Nations. Hopefully you are having a good Friday night. Nice to see you here. And thanks for listening to Bruce. Bruce is a real good guy, and he's definitely become a great frequent on Toxic Tuesday. So shout out to Bruce Lombardo of the Dix Division. Let's bring in our dudes here. Hey, what's up, Sci-Fi for Me TV? I see you there. Let's bring in the clobberer himself, Mr. Clobbering Times.
It's clobbering time. What's up, buddy? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. I'm just happy to be here. Really ecstatic about talking about these comics tonight. Like, really ecstatic.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hello there, friends in the chat. Welcome. Greetings.
Oh, Oakley Vandal. How you doing, Oakley? Nice to see you here as well. Thank you for dropping in. No, Clubby, it's been a week, and I'm ready to talk about some good things. It's been we need a change right now more than ever.
Yes, sir.
So glad to have you here, and let's bring in our other dudes. What's going on, the Common Nerd? Nice shirt.
Thanks. You like that? I'm Joe Biden, and I forgot this message. So yeah, Biden 2024. Yeah, I'm totally supporting. I'm trying to show the love right here. I want everybody to know exactly where I feel on everything. So yeah, he forgot this message. But yeah, hail Nick, hail Clobby, hail chat. See you guys. So yeah, I'm excited about this tonight. I've got I've got these issues down. I've read this. This has been really fun. I'm excited about this too, especially with all the craziness that's been going on the last few days. Don't get me wrong, it's been great for my channel, but at the exact same time, it's oh, it gets so nice to get back to the good things, just to go through and read all of the fun stuff again. I'm rewatching Babylon 5 right now because of all
great.
Yeah, nice. That was my first full-fledged sci-fi series as a kid that I got to watch from the beginning to the end. Now I missed a lot of the movies and a lot of the stuff that came out extra. So I'm going to catch up on all those. But since we've got the animated version coming from the original creator, I'm stoked for that. He's getting ready to take over Superman as well. So I'm kind of curious to see where that goes. At the same time, he's supposed to be launching Superman in the fall. And so I'm really excited to I'm really excited. Yep. He announced that on
not again.
Like I said, I've never read the Superman before. I don't know if it's any good or not. I just know I like his sci-fi.
I'm just saying he can't write comics.
Okay.
Babylon 5. I mean, maybe it'll be different. I'm just saying.
No, I'm just excited about his Babylon 5 stuff because I love that. Like I said, I was a Babylon 5 fan as a kid. So.
I just hadn't heard that, so I'm sorry. Forgive my reaction. I was like, oh.
No, you're good. I didn't know anything about. I didn't know. Like I said, I just know he's good at sci-fi. I have no idea if he's good at Superman. Yeah. That's two completely different worlds, no doubt about that. So
give it a shot. You might like it. You never know. And maybe it won't be the same as before.
Well, there you go. We'll see we'll definitely see what happens. But either way, like I said, I'm excited about that. I'm super excited to talk about these Spider-Man issues tonight. I've read these earlier, and man, this is some classic stuff. It reminds me of exactly when I was a kid watching Spider-Man and his amazing friends and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this is right in line. I love this. So yeah. Hey, Vince, good to see you, brother.
Shout out to Vince. All right, let's bring in the Ironcaster.
Hello, friends. It's finally Friday night. I don't have no cool Babylon 5 shirt or the Joe Biden one or anything like that. What am I saying? I do got a cool shirt on. I got Ultra 7.
Oh.
Hell yeah. I can't wait to watch you blow your whole paycheck on those hot toys.
Not me, girl. I'll say there. I think
This SOB, he like starts sending me like articles about how Hot Toys has got a couple Kamen Rider figures coming. And I'm like, oh.
It's gonna come, but you just have to accept the inevitability. It's gonna do it, and you can't do anything to stop that.
Honestly, I've been going back and watching a lot of some of the older Ultraman, and I'm surprised how well that's holding up for like the sci-fi stuff. That's, if you're looking for something a little bit different. I mean, like I had you check out a little bit of it, Common, Jesse.
Say what? You said what?
Oh, I said I sent you the link to some of it to check out for yourself, and you gave me some pretty good.
Yes, I did. I did get those, and I will check those out. It's always just one of those things with me. It's always finding time. Saturday evenings, afternoons are always a good time for me. So yeah, that's kind of when I try to binge everything. Because honestly, like, and I know this isn't something we want to really talk about here, but like I've been meaning to watch Secret Invasion for the last 2 days just to review it and roast it. I haven't even been able to find time to do that with everything else.
Lucky you.
I know, right? Yeah.
I've watched it. Ugh.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Clobby. I'm so sorry for you, brother.
It's your
And
fault.
also
I don't know why. It's your fault.
And also kind of to go off of the Straczynski and comics. Do bear in mind he wrote One More Day.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good point. Thanks. Okay, I'll stick with it. Bye.
I will not name the artist's name, but I do know an artist who's supposed to work on ASM post One More Day. We had him on here. I'm not going to name his name, but if he ever wants to say anything, but he was on here many episodes ago, and he said that when he worked at Marvel, and it sounds like he has no connection to JMS. He did say that One More Day was not Jay's idea. Apparently, that was all Quesada.
It was Quesada's idea. There's no question about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but obviously,
it's still stupid.
It was still stupid. Doesn't make it stupid any less. Obviously, I'm just putting out there that the guy did work at Marvel, and I'm gonna take his word for it, because he told me he was supposed to also be an artist on it for Brand New Day, and then he got absolutely shafted by Quesada. So
yeah, that's fair cut.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation for another day. But anyways, we have a few more rivals. What's up, Bodega Outlaw, RJ Godzilla 81, and the great Makini Draws? Nice to see you, Mach. It's been a while, dude. Great to see you, man. Hopefully you're doing well. I know you're still doing your channel. Glad to see you. I do eavesdrop on your shows sometimes, so keep fighting the good fight, sir. All right.
Absolutely. Great artist.
God. Oh, I can't show off. Hold on.
Yes, you can.
Right up there. He made me that Thor piece up there, dude. That
wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll have to bring it down for another show, but dude, when he made me that Thor piece, and I was just like, it was cool to see it online when he was making it for me on stream, but to have him mail it and then for me open the packaging and to see it, I was just like, dude, holy fuck. So I'm just saying, Mach, you're still the man, and I'm still grateful for that. I'm still gonna rave about that, even though it's been over a year. I'm still gonna rave about it, which I'm sure you'll understand.
Oh, and I do have one thing to show off that I completely and totally forgot last week as well. If we get a chance to do that later, so
YouTube sent you. Well, welcome, Philip Blair. Nice to meet you. Welcome.
Yes. Welcome.
That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to see. So, guys, I'm sure Pablo will be here when he does, and if he can make it friendlier. But are we ready to talk some amazing Spider-Man?
Did you say D-Bud's coming? D-Bud's not coming?
I think we should bullshit around for a little bit.
What about D-Bud?
D-Bud, can you talk about it? I know he's out there. I'll let D-Bud in if he's available immediately, because I know this was kind of a last-minute decision. But if he's available, I'll let him in.
Oh yeah, I thought he was coming in. I mean, no biggie.
I was hoping to. I was hoping to.
I was talking to him earlier because I'd imagine he actually has these comics, like
Oh,
the
okay.
actual.
Yeah, no question
physical
about it.
Well,
versions.
then I'm gonna shoot him a message right now. I'll just send him the link. That's what I'm just gonna do. D-Bud, I'm sending you the link, and I'm counting on you. Then, if we're sending you the link now, I'm gonna expect you on the show for the next 4 weeks after that, unless you tell me you can't, which I'll always understand.
Yeah,
But
if you can't
you
make
are
it,
a
you can't
default.
make it.
Yeah, you can't make it. That's how it always is. That's how the cookie crumbles. Okay. Now, gentlemen, let's get this page set open to the Amazing Spider-Man number 21. Okay.
All right.
I'm ready
Now,
to talk some Spider-Man. What's up, Clobby?
I don't know. I was just saying. The second 2 issues that we've done, I haven't read them in a long time, but I tried to reskim them as best I could. But I've read the first 2, 21 and 22. The other ones I've read a while back, but yeah, just
I'm
trying to get
almost.
as much.
Don't feel too bad, Clobby. I'm almost done with 24. I'm only like.
Okay.
34 pages.
Oh,
I had
hold
to
up.
skim 20
See,
and
there
24.
you go. Hey, if you want to come in, you can come in. If not, join us next week. Okay, we'll be doing 25 through 28 next week. Okay, yeah, like I said, it was kind of a last minute decision. But yeah, join us next week, 25 through 28. Okay, and we'll do it then. But until then, we're gonna talk Spider-Man. And we're talking the issue number 21, which, of course, what I've noticed from this cover, and obviously, Common, you weren't here then, but Caster and Clobby know, and I'm sure Clobby might feel the same way. It was a spam bot,
Oh, okay.
Clobby. Yeah, it was a spam bot.
I've seen those in a while.
I know.
Wow.
I guess they're back
Okay.
in action, but
Wow. Okay.
what I noticed with this cover compared to what we did with the first 20, I've noticed his Spider-Man is starting to look a bit more, I guess you could say, defined.
No question about it.
Look at it right here. Which is obviously more like in line at the top corner. Well, it more looks like from issue number 1, but then you look here, like, oh, okay, his suit is starting to definitely looks more defined here. I think that's a good compare and contrast. Look at the top corner to the top, middle. So,
oh yeah, look, his art was really starting to evolve on Spider-Man around this point, and well, of course, Doctor Strange.
Yes, especially
which
that.
Was not well. It wasn't quite up to. I don't think he'd done Doctor Strange quite yet, but it was getting.
No, but when his Doctor Strange goes nuts, it goes nuts. What's up, Zax? I see you there, and yeah. For a lot of people, this is actually not the proper introduction, not over all of the Beetle, but for Beetle and Spider-Man comics. And he actually had a previous rivalry with Johnny Storm, one of my other favorite Marvel characters of all time. So for me, this was a joy reading this some time ago because it's like I get Spidey and the Torch, and the Beetle was my introductory villain to Spider-Man because I think he was on the Amazing Friends when they fought the Beetle. So I remember that purple suit. Obviously, it's different, but I remember thinking, "Oh, cool, a comic where they fight the Beetle," and my mind couldn't believe it. I was so happy seeing. It's cool to see this issue because you really do get to see a lot of the early formations of the steps of what will inevitably become the Spider-Man Human Torch bromance, even though it's nowhere near there as of now in this issue. No. But you could definitely see, like, okay, these two dudes have more in common than they think. But you could see definitely like, okay, these two are good. Definitely will be colliding again someday soon. In what capacity, I don't know. But you could tell there's something there. To me, I look at this, like, there's going to be something there between these two. But Mr. Jenkins here with his outfit, this was his actual outfit, not the one that a lot of people got to know in later comics or later cartoons. This is his outfit right here that he was first known for,
right?
The Beetle, and he
cool
he
outfit.
had his. I like it. Actually, is more. I like the big hands on it, and I like how Spidey has to emphasize the thick platedness of it when he's fighting. I thought that was actually funny.
Nick, we did forget something though.
The intro.
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you want to take it?
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, I love it when you do the intros. Yeah. Here, let's
Sure,
go
now.
back to it.
All right, true believers. I present the Amazing Spider-Man number 21. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Deliciously written by me, your modest Stan Lee. Deliriously illustrated by me. I just changed my name to Steve Ditko for the illustrations because I didn't want to take too much credit, but it was me, trust me. Delightfully lettered by S. Rosen, also me. And see, S after all, see? And if there's S before your name, it must be me. Now, true believers, just imagine a comic book. What? No, Steve, no, what do you, never mind. Another mighty Marvel milestone in the Marvel age of comics. I created everything, so shut up and read this comic, and if you don't like it, you little punk out. What? No, I'm sorry. Go on, true believers. Yeah, Steve who? Sorry.
All right. No, well done, Klobby. So I like this issue because it's also like an issue that is like a big story for Storm, because you see what happens when he has to try to actually be a decent boyfriend, and the minute he listens too well, it backfires at him. I thought that was great. I thought that was hilarious because he thinks that she's screwing with him. I'm like, that is so funny that is happening. And all of a sudden he realizes, oh, crud. She really is in trouble. I was like, oh, this is so funny of an issue because of that.
One of the things I really loved about these early issues too was going back and reading these, because you always, like in modern era, you always see Jonah Jameson like talking about how Spider-Man's a criminal and like all of this other kind of stuff. But you only ever see that, like in the modern era, you only really see that from Jonah's perspective. Whereas in these comics, it's still early on in Spider-Man's era where everybody thinks he is a criminal. Because even like the chick he's trying to rescue, she thinks he's a bad guy out there. It's like two bad guys out in front of her house fighting. And I thought that was really cool to see. And then, like you said right here, this is a perfect example of, he just thought she was joking. And oh boy, did that turn on his head. But I love seeing that, because I never saw that really before too much.
What I like, this smile kind of encompasses Johnny Storm, that really big, cheesy, like smile. I just see, I'm like, yep, that's a smile of a Johnny Storm right there. And Dory, poor old Dory, she wanted him to just not flame on for a whole 24 hours. That's all it was.
24 hours of no flaming. You can't even do that in June.
No. Indeed. And he lasted what, 13 hours around per se?
Yeah. She was trying now.
She was trying. She had good intentions, and what's up, Keely Chow? How you doing, Sherry and Dearest?
Sherry.
Hey, lovely Sherry.
Nice to see you all here. I like that, as you know, Spidey guides the torch to Beetle. He realizes, hey, okay, there is maybe this is a problem with the Beetle, because Torch automatically thinks it's Spider-Man being wrong, because everyone thinks Spider-Man's wrong just because he breathes oxygen and J. Jonah Jameson says so. But seeing them actually realize, okay, Beetle's the enemy, and them doing their teamwork, you can tell right off the bat that they are starting to have moves together that work, that complement each other. And I was like, I could see right at the bat they already have a good fit for each other as far as the dynamics of fighting in combat against villains. And even, of course, despite all that, well, Spidey's still suspicious. So I was like, damn it. Come on, John. You just teamed up with the guy. You just teamed up with it. I'm like, well, maybe Dory's right. Maybe there is something up with him. But, oh, well, that's the old Parker luck coming into play. And that is pretty much a very Spider-Man way of how things play out in the history of Spider-Man. And this is probably one of my favorite panels here. This is a good, I didn't even think this was going to happen, like going into this. So, like, oh, hey, it's a collision. And then boom.
Yeah.
Beetle's out, and there you go. Look, it's all your fault. I can't right there. Poor Spidey. What a fantastic. Go ahead.
Oh, all I was going to say is one of the other things I loved about this too is, like, you get to see Spider-Man in his traditional, like, quippy, smart ass. Like, he says a lot of those great comments back and forth. He's got a lot of that kind of stuff. And I love being reminded that is the true essence of Spider-Man. Because even in the animated series, which is what was my first introduction to Spider-Man, he still always had those quips. He still always had those little sayings, those jokes, all that kind of stuff. And you get to see that early on, even here. And man, I just loved seeing that because you don't see that in the modern era anymore. And that's such classic Spider-Man. So I loved seeing that.
Facts. So, Klobby, since you reread this issue, I'll let you sound off on this issue.
Well, it should be, this is very, very, at this point, very basic, simplistic stuff. Ditko, by the way, Stan and Steve were not talking to each other at all. And Stan got fed up. He got, at this point, not too long before this, he was fed up with them fighting. So he said, just do whatever the hell you want. So he was not, he wasn't even participating in the story whatsoever. It was all Steve Ditko, I should say. And I think Ditko's, my favorite thing really right now is how Ditko's art was really starting to evolve on this title. Great stuff. He was definitely playing up the sad sack Spidey stuff, of course. It's very, let's just say it's a very thin plot. You want to go and get Pablo in and we'll keep going there.
Yeah, well, before I let you fish, what's going on, Pablo?
Pablo.
Howdy ho!
There it is.
What's up?
I was enjoying what you guys were saying. Indeed, here the art is a little bit better, and especially the faces. But that smile on Johnny is just legendary.
Right. Seriously, that was probably one of my favorite panels in this entire comic. Now, Klobby, I do agree with you that it's thin in terms of story, but I feel like having what happens in this issue definitely, for me at least, it definitely gets a respectable score because it's a great start of what becomes Spidey and Torch's long-lasting.
That's one of my favorite things in comics is the Spidey and Torch relationship, and it's nowhere near there yet. Like you pointed out, at this point, it's not there yet.
No, nowhere
I don't
near.
have a particular. I always had a problem. I don't care how old or new a story is when it's based upon something that would on faulty premises that would into a 2-minute a 30-second conversation, and it doesn't happen. And that's what you have here, the idiot plot, as they call it, where all he had to say, all she had to do was, when she tried to tell him and he didn't believe her, that's one thing. But Spider-Man, when the Torch shows up, he just says, "I'm going to lead him to what's his face, to Beetle." Well, you could just tell him. He didn't even try to tell him. It's like, you know what? They've met each other enough.
Well, he tried to tell him, and he was just swinging the flame balls at him.
No, but he never tried to stop. Say, look, this guy Beetle has got your girl. Let's go get him. He said, "I'm just going to go ahead and lead him to her." But my point about it is, at this point, I think they should have been, their friend. They should be at least know each other well enough to know that. For Johnny, because even Johnny later says, I think he's been a really good guy sometimes, but sometimes I don't know for sure.
Yes.
I don't think he buys into Spidey being a villain anymore. So he says it right there. But anyway, it's pretty entertaining just because these are two of my favorite characters. And but it's a pretty simple story. Silly story over a girl. And by the way, it's also a very silly, thin motivation. The guy gets out of jail, and 2 seconds later, he wants to get his ass thrown back into jail.
It's an action movie plot. It's an old action movie plot. You have
they returned the costume. They returned the costume.
They gave him his costume back. It's like, I'm not even gonna go get a beer. I'm just gonna go up right back out after the Human Torch, man. I'm not gonna enjoy my freedom one bit. I'm gonna go get my ass kicked by a superhero again right away. Which again was funny.
I actually
You get your
expect that from a
costume back.
villain.
You are
When I love
in jail. You get your costume back. You are okay then.
Well, yeah, that was my favorite part. I love the excuse they give when he gets out of prison to give him back his fucking armor and everything else. It's like there's nothing illegal about a civilian having armor, plated armor shaped like a beetle. And I'm like,
I'm not so sure he's right about that.
Right? Yeah.
I could go get a beer. I could go enjoy my life. But first, revenge.
Yes,
revenge. Well, see, Klobby, here's where I kind of I see your point, but the thing is, I actually think that is very in line for Beetle to do that. You and I are the type of guys where if we did time, we would go and say, "Hey, let's get a beer for celebration." But villains are so arrogant and up their own ass about their ego. Of course, he's gonna think about revenge. That's right in line with what a villain thinks. That's villain think, man. That's villain think.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna go I don't drink, but I mean, I'm not so much get a beer. But I might go get me something really nice hamburger or something, and get me,
Okay.
go hang
But
out
you
with
get
a, with a
you get
chick.
the
Go give me
point, though.
some lady. You can sit with the ladies a little bit, and then maybe we'll get it for the week, and then Anyway, go ahead. I'm just
No,
that was
but
just
you
me.
get the point, though. Even if it's not
Yeah.
literally that, you're still celebrating, regardless of was you're
I'm
happy
only-
to get out,
right.
and you're trying to do something to commemorate that you're
Yeah.
free. A
I'm
villain
really-
would not do that because they're too arrogant.
Well, I'm merely commenting on the flimsiness of a plot. All you got to say is, "I'm going to get revenge on the torch," and then you just pass time. You just pass time with your panel, saying that a few weeks later or whatever. But yeah, anyway.
Or you show
I'm
him
just
making
silly.
a new costume, making a new armor, but
Yeah.
The other thing too
Revenge,
is
revenge makes the beer taste better.
Oh, boy.
well, and
what's
the other thing
another-
too is
Go ahead, Connor.
if you've ever been like locked up even for a weekend, right? Like even if you've done like an overnight in county for like, a DUI or something like that. One of those things that happens when you sit inside of that wall, when you sit inside that cells, when it's just you or just even you and one other person, it's one of those things. What do you think about the entire time? Most people, unless they're a complete and total psychopath, think about the fact that how they screwed up, what they did wrong. Now you take a complete and total psychopath who thinks that they are right in every single aspect. What are they going to think about when they get stuck in those four walls all by themselves for a long period of time? The person who put them there. That's all they're going to think about, because they are going to want revenge on that person for who they believe was wrong, because they believe they are in the right doing what they do. So yeah, I mean, it is kind of a flimsy plot line. They don't add that kind of element to it. Like you could have seen like images of Blue Beetle in prison, constantly thinking about, the Human Torch, drawing pictures on his wall, like what you'd see in some modern movies and stuff like that. But at the exact same time, like from, coming from the perspective of that, yeah, sure.
So-
You got my thoughts. I'll put it in my butt.
basically what they lacked is doing a sideshow Bob. Is basically
There
that.
you go,
Sideshow Bob
yeah.
is all the time thinking about Bart and is stupid fun. And then
These guys with
also
these
to-
comments are hilarious.
Yep.
You guys are killing these comments. This is the controversy. Why Beetle just chose to go out there? Who would have thought?
This is
What's
what
up,
nerds
Masquerade?
fight over.
Lawyers
This is what nerds argue over.
Yep, this is exactly what we argue over. Okay. Another thing we got to mention, this is where you start to, because not just like Flash Thompson, he's kind of got to start early in issues, but Johnny Storm starts to join him and being the guy who has a love-hate relationship with Spider-Man Peter Parker. Loves one side and has issues about the other. So I always love seeing that dynamic, and it helps you make that believability of these two cannot be one and the same, because once again, Peter's the bookworm. That was at a time when bookworms were absolutely reviled and then some. So yeah, and also you see Spider-Man having the proportionate strength of a spider, as they say, and doing all his moves, fighting Beetle, kicking ass. There's Peter, no, that dude's too obsessed with this stuff.
Okay,
No.
have
Go
you
ahead,
heard?
Pablo.
There's a theory about the inner workings of the Spidey sense and actually making Peter smarter, because he can feel when the answer will be wrong, and that's why even in the video game, when you are making the circuitry, you actually feel the spider sense when you are going to mess up, because it's supposed to be a really good way just to find when something that he's making is not working properly or a circuit is going off, and that's why he excels in engineering.
Sorry,
I was laughing at
I'm sure
that
you
too.
understand.
Dude,
This is where we are at. The debate, the great debate on Beetle getting out of jail, what to do with his life.
Yes.
I love seeing all these different perspectives on how Beetle should have handled it, and why he was justified to go through.
Yes.
You guys are killing me. I love it. Shout
okay,
out to the
but
chat.
what happens when is the next superhero that gets the beetle in the can? Does he change the target?
Hmm?
Let's say next time is Spider-Man the one that gets him in jail. Will he go after Spider-Man and then is Nova? Will he go after Nova, or he's fixed on the Human Torch?
Well, and one of the cool things that I saw in this in this comic that I hadn't really ever realized before is Johnny's flame only lasts so long.
Yep.
Well, yeah,
That was
It has a
something
limit.
I didn't. That was something I didn't know,
Yeah.
and I thought that was really cool to see. I love how, like, because that's one of the things in the modern era. A lot of time, like you see like limitless powers, right? Like that was one of my biggest issues with like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. It was like this isn't there's no web cartridges, right? Like he doesn't ever run out of webbing. So where's his weakness? You know what I mean? Like where's the thing? And that was one of the things I'd never seen with Johnny before, and I thought that was really cool to see. Like eventually he's like, "Oh yeah, my flame ran out. I got to recharge." I'm like, "Well, that's cool. I didn't even know that was a thing." So,
Oh, you guys. What's up,
Love
Sean
it.
Stackhouse? Good
Sean.
shout out to Sean. Good
Hey,
man.
Sean.
Hopefully you're having a good Friday night, sir. We've been on meet with him a few times, right, Clawby?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hopefully you're having a good
Hey.
night. And we got Warrior Justice for $2. Says, what type of
Oh,
punch hurts a
man.
kid more? A Sandy? Oh,
All right, hold on. I got a couple of things for that one. Hold on. First off,
wow.
and then this one for the fact that you donated $2, you still deserve
Yeah.
an applause, even for a really bad joke.
Warrior Justice, shout out, man. That was, I'll give it to you. That was clever, and thank you for the $2. I hope you're having a good night, sir.
So bad.
This all sounds like, if you came into this lacking context, this sounds like this could be taken out of context really badly. I'm just saying. All right. Anyways,
Yeah,
I
at the-
guess. Go ahead.
Happy
Bob.
Pride
at the
Month.
beginning of the comics, yes, there was also stakes. The temperature that he can get, the damage that he can do with his flame. So at the beginning, you had a time limit. You had him trying to control the flame, and there was another rule about the Human Torch. I think it was something about his flight, but basically, yeah. Later, he was all powerful for some reason. I don't think they ever explained that, other than who cares.
Well, and one of the cool things that I saw that just dated this comic was the fact that the whole fire retardant thing, they referenced asbestos
Yes.
several
Yep.
times in this comic. And
Yeah.
I was like, holy
yeah.
God,
Oh, yeah.
talk about
Oh, yeah.
dating something. Because Spider-Man's like, I got asbestos in my webbing, and that's going to put your torch out. And then, like, there was another scene that, like, I don't know if it was Beetle or whoever it was, but it was like, oh, we're going to use all this asbestos to stop him. And I was just like, that's hilarious. The fact that shows you how dated these comics really are because of what we know now.
Yeah.
Dude, they still use asbestos in Ecuador, so
And once again, something we mentioned a lot. They write every issue as if it's someone's first comic book. You can read this issue cold. Obviously, once again, you benefit from the larger picture, narrative, whatever you want to call it. But you could just read this comic as if you don't know the Fantastic Four. That's fine, man. You get to know Johnny Storm. And hopefully, he becomes your favorite Fantastic Four like me. But no, and D-Bud, just for you, buddy. You asked for page 15. Dude,
Yeah.
I love seeing the webs and the flames at it.
I love the web. What, tennis rackets? I guess
ping pong
that what you-
rackets. Yep.
Yeah, like I loved that, like the webbing tennis rackets that he was. I'm like, that's classic stuff you don't see anymore. You know what I mean? Like I love that.
Okay, so Ironcaster, we'll start with your final thoughts on this comic.
Oh, I mean, this was just kind of a fun one to have a team up with, the Human Torch, who was one of the more popular heroes at the time. But I'm just kind of thinking about Asbestos Man now. Like,
Yes.
I think I remember reading a comic from the more modern years, so within the last 15 years, where Asbestos Man shows up, and the joke is like he's just walking into a place and he's like, "I'm Asbestos Man," and people are like paying him money to go away.
I love it. I like it all the time, RJ. Don't do that. Don't do that, RJ. It's bad.
You guys are killing me.
I love
This
it.
chat's having fun with this issue. That's what I like to see. I mean, how
But-
could you not be? But carry on, Caster.
But yeah, I mean, the Beatles a villain. I've always I don't think I've ever really been aware of, except for the more modern version when he's been up with all the other kind of C tier rogues of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's this was just kind of a fun, like, oh, simple misunderstanding. We need to ultimately have, you know, Spider-Man and the Human Torch fight for a while, only to realize that, like, hey, there's a villain we should fight. And it's working out in that way that also has Peter and Johnny in outside of the superpowers, you know, having a similar butting of heads. It's like it's classic tropes. You know, what's not to love with this?
All right. So you what do you want? Whatever you want to rate it, recommend it. Where are you at on the echelon of this issue?
I'm gonna give it like a 7.5, maybe an 8, just
Okay.
because
Okay.
it's just right in that groove of sort of like the perfect kind of like early comic to go read. It's ultimately fairly inconsequential. Nothing really happens that really shakes the world up.
Okay. Well, I'll be.
Well, you know, you just you always got me at Spidey and Torch. I mean, when you have the Spidey and the Torch in the comic, you don't really do much else, especially if it's of this era, you know, Ditko and stuff like that. So fun, goofy, kind of nothing of a story, but it's Spidey and the Torch in a tussle in their early days. So I adore it no matter what. I mean, there's two of my favorite characters, and of course, I always love their friendship and their relationship, especially as as time goes on. So yeah, I think it's great stuff. Ditko's art is sensationally. He doesn't set the world on fire, if you'll pardon the pun, in terms of being crazy visuals in this one, but they are really great. He's really, I think, coming of his own when it comes to Spidey action, and his art was really evolving well at this point. So it's a topper. If we're giving, like, what are we doing, 1 through 10 type?
Whatever
scale
you
or
want to
something?
do. A,
Yeah.
B, 4, 5.
Yeah, no,
Whatever you want to do on
I'll go 1 to 10.
stars.
It's a 1 to 10. It's a 7
Okay.
for me.
Okay.
Almost a 7.5 for the great art, because of the way his art's going. So just it was just kind of a thin story, but that's okay.
Thank
It's
you,
fighting the
Phantom
torch, so
Outsider.
it's okay.
I'm this is something I was meaning to get to, and you beat me to it. Dude, he he cuts it like he's cutting up a piece of paper. So at first I'm like, dude, that's something you take seriously. Yeah, his name and suit could be, I guess you could say, not taken seriously, but to do something like that, obviously there's many artists who could do that, but still, if you could do that, you're still better off than more of the population than not. All right, Common Nerd.
Well, and I think I'm going to kind of agree with Ironcaster on this one. I'm going to give it about a 7, just because it is kind of a general story. Like, you see this, like, especially after reading like some of the team up stuff that you guys had suggested in the past that I went back through and read. Some of the crossovers between like Marvel and DC, where they like decided to exist, that like they'd always been together. Like, that's kind of what it felt like to me. So it is, but at the exact same time, like it's an extremely fun story. The artwork is incredible, just like Klobby said. It's very classic Spider-Man kind of stuff, got that look and that feel, but it is a really fun story. You get to see a really cool beginning to the Torch and Spider-Man's relationship. And like I said, I love the fact that like you get to see classic like web tennis rackets. Like, I mean, like what better does it get than that? And I really enjoyed Blue Beetle's like color with all of this too. Like, I love those classic colors and all that kind of stuff. But as far as like story wise, yeah, I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. It doesn't really change the landscape of things, but it's a great starting point for what you will eventually get to see future on going on between that relationship with Torch and Spider-Man. So yeah, I thought this was a really fun episode, or really fun comic book issue.
All right. Pablo.
Well, there's something that I really don't like about this issue, and
Okay.
it's Betty. Sorry, but she gets annoying after a while, and every single time she's jealous.
She's very insecure. No, you're right. Which is weird, because
Dude.
she's the older girl. You would think that she would have a bit more confidence compared to the girls like the Liz Allens of the world, or the Dorys. You would think Betty Brant would have a little bit of like, oh, that's just some youngin' girl. And if Peter were to be into her, she'd be like, oh, you're just downgrading.
No, she's getting too archy for me, and I think I get why she got replaced. I really do. So that for me didn't really work on this issue. The art is killer, though. The art is amazing,
Thank you. I
and
agree.
let's admit there's a lot of funny stuff. As Chloe said, it's simplistic, but is a bit the good kind of simplistic, like a morning cartoon, something that you just don't really
Yeah.
need. Is not you don't need to think about it. Is if it directly tells you we didn't think about it. Don't worry, just enjoy. And
There you go.
yeah, it works. The Beetle is a really stupid character in this. Just the way he gets the police on this universe is absolutely bonkers. But okay, uh, that part is really entertaining. But when you get to Betty, is like a downer. So for me, it will be a 6.57.
I'll have to add,
Yeah.
She's
I'll have to
still
add one more
older,
thing.
even if it's one of you. Dude, here's the thing. Okay, I'm gonna mention this, Phantom. For us nowadays, that don't mean anything. But when you're in high school and college years, when you're 1 or 2 years older than someone, it makes you feel that much more big league. I remember I was that way, having that
Dating
1 or 2
girls.
years difference. Maybe I don't that I remember was like I remember kids who were older than me when I was a freshman and they'd be seeing that to them they thought they were big shit on the block just because they were older by default. And that makes so much sense for a teenage mentality, teenage college mentality.
Well, and one other thing I want to point out about this issue as well is think about all the redheads that were in this issue.
Yeah.
It's
That is
so
true.
full of them, and I love that so much. So I had to point. I just remembered that I had to point that out too. 'Cause, redheads.
I figured. Go ahead, Pablo. Go ahead, finish up, Pablo.
Dude, I think that will be it. Obviously, the relationship with the Torch is great, but they kind of downgraded from their previous meeting where actually the Torch acknowledged Spider-Man. So here, like, come on, you are not going to hear him at least 1 second after you said he is the good guy. Okay, uh, that kind of didn't make sense, but they are from together, so screw it. It's just fun. Uh, yeah, that will be it. That will be it, really.
Okay. And what's up, Anonymous? I just saw you drop in. Hopefully, you are well, sir. Thank you for being here. For me, I'm gonna go with and I'll admit there is a conflict of interest on my end because of Spidey and the Torch, and it does add to my score. I'll admit it. I'll straight up admit it. If you want to call me a shill, I will own it. That's fine. I'm gonna give this a straight 8 for me. I'm gonna give a strong straight 8 for me. No, fuck it. I'm gonna go 8.1 because once again, it's the very beginning of what's to become a very long lasting and probably my favorite friendship in comic books. And once again, having the Beetle and the fight scenes were absolutely awesome. Ditko absolutely drew his ass off with the fights. I had so much fun watching that. And to see Johnny Storm try to like listen to his girlfriend and then overtake it seriously was absolutely hilarious. And that panel of his big, cheesy, ridiculous, shit-eating grin, I'm gonna laugh. I laughed at it then, and I will laugh at it from now until forever. What a freaking hilarious panel! So yeah, strong 8.1 over here. Yeah, it's paper thin, and I'll admit it. I'll concede to that. I will. But you know what? I had so much fun with this issue. I can forgive those shortcomings. I will forgive it just off of that.
Can't blame you.
I have one regret, and it was that I did not put that face in the thumbnail.
Oh, right.
It's just gonna be that face over every single character.
It's pure glee and fuckery.
Yes, absolutely. Oh man, no, seriously, guys, that was amazing. Spider-Man number 21. But are we ready to advance to issue number 22?
Go for it.
Because this is a very memorable issue in more ways than one. I love once again, I love the cover, and it's got some great big like headline. Another big one from Mighty Marvel, and new thrills, new villains, new surprises, Spidey battles the Clown and his Masters of Menace. And then Clawby gets to do the great introduction once again.
Sorry. All right, here we go.
No, you're good, man.
Hang on 1 second. Let me clear. Sorry about that. Unprepared.
All right, true believers, gather around for the Amazing Spider-Man number 100 and no, what? Oh, sorry, number 22. Really? Sure, not number one? Isn't everything number one these days? No, never mind. Written by me, and if I don't have to say my name, because you should all know it, it's Stan Lee Lieber. No, that was my name I was born with. Stan Lee, me, there, and illustrated by some. Please forgive me, I can't remember his name. And lettered by Artie Simek, who gets the biggest lettering because he did the lettering. See, well, he let Artie do that. As occasionally, it's cheaper than giving him a raise. And you know what? There's so much truth in. Never mind,
dude. I rereading that. I was like,
oh boy, man, there's so sick truth there. You would
another one of Lee's living legends. Another dazzling Ditko delight. Steve's like, screw you. By the way, Steve did not put that. If there's anything Steve did not write in this book, it's that right there, or the credit box. So, anyway,
oh, of course.
Proceed. True believers coming at you, Pilgrim.
What's up, JT Gunn? Nice to see you here. All right, so right off the bat, I love the crafty clown, but I just call him the clown. But
the crafty clown.
The crafty
He's
clown.
Crafty.
The fact this is such a silly issue. It almost, to me, it kind of reminded me of something from Batman 66. A bunch of silly dressed up villains and Spider-Man kind of kicking their asses, and Princess Python trying to be the seductive female of the group. And the fact that Ringmaster gets hypnotized by his own thing and then tries to double cross him after he got burned by them. I'm like, this is all a cartoon plot, but it's well told. It's a well told cartoon plot.
It's like the only thing this is missing. It's like the only thing this is missing to be a Batman 66 episode is to have it all drawn at a Dutch angle.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And on top of it, I love how they were so like, we gotta give ourselves a menacing name. And Spider-Man just comes up with their name, like, oh crap, he's here. Like they're so like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna be the next hot shots in town. And not only do they all get their asses pummeled in some amazing, well choreographed fight scenes. Once again, from Mr. Ditko, he kills on the action again. 2 straight issues. And Ringmaster thought he could come back and take it all back, only to find out, nah, bro, shit's not gonna happen. No, you go on home, man. This ain't gonna happen. So I love this issue, but I'm gonna let you guys have at it with this issue because I already went on a lot with 21. I want you guys to have the floor more for 22. So, Common Nerd, go ahead and talk.
Dude, I love this. I love this issue. And I think it was just because of the campy characters. Like I've always loved the sideshow freak stories. Like that was one of my, American Horror Story. One of my favorite seasons was the freak show one, just because I've always been fascinated by the freak show stuff because it's one of those things like now in the modern era, it's like, oh my God, you have to protect these people. And it's like back in the day, it's like, no, you found places for them. You found places for them to, make a living. Maybe it wasn't the most dignified thing, at least as far as certain people were concerned, but they had a life, they had a world. And then when a lot of that kind of stuff, when a lot of the freak shows and all that kind of stuff got 86'd, you saw what happened to those people. And I think that's one of them situations where, and even though that I don't know the backstory completely and totally behind all these circus freaks, but like that's like you saw that kind of thing actually happen. And like seeing this and seeing the crazy costumes and just like the cheesy stuff, like I got a really big kick out of this one. I thought it was fun. And I love how the clown's like the one that takes over. And like, there's a later scene in here where he goes through and he's like riding his unicycle and he knocks Joe Jameson over, and it was so funny because like not even 5 seconds before that, Jameson's like, oh yeah, this clown's great. I'm going to take credit for this, yada, 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 yada. And then the clown like knocks him over and everybody else. And like, it's a fun campy kind of episode. It's like classic issue kind of stuff, classic issue comic stuff. And it was so much fun. And one of the things, and I'm glad you brought this part up too, because one of the things I love about this is this shows Peter Parker as Peter Parker is supposed to be. The boy genius, you know what I mean? The guy fascinated by knowledge, the guy that wants to learn absolutely everything. And that's one of the things that I love about seeing this stuff. It's one of the things I love about classic Peter Parker is that he was a genius. He did everything on his own. And seeing this and the back and forth and the fact that they carry over the relationship issues that he was having in the last episode to this one, I thought was really fun too, that they carried that over. They didn't just serialize it. They just didn't ignore what happened in the last issue. So I thought, even though, you know, you're not necessarily carrying over the villains, you're not necessarily carrying over the storyline, but there's a little subtlety there that's left over from the last issue that is now getting dealt with in the next issue. And I thought that was really cool, tying it all in. So, and just, I mean, the artwork's just classic. Like, you can't beat it. Like, I mean, this is what you think of when you think of, you know, classic comics. So yeah, I thought this was a lot of fun. And of course, once again, redheads all over the place. So, ooh la la, you know. But you know, I liked the emotional issues that they were all having at the exact same time, right? Because if you really think about it, like, most people are kind of like that. When you really see that, you know, you're always worried, you know, no matter how secure your relationship is, unless you're the most confident person on the face of the planet, you're always going to have insecurities about your relationships. And that's one of those things that I liked that they showed about this. They carried over the letter. They talk about the letter from her old boyfriend, you know, and that's one of those things that kind of carries on.
Oh yeah, with Ned Leeds. You're trying to go at that.
Ned,
it makes you feel how human these characters are.
Exactly. And that's one of the things I like about that, because tell me any man here that has a wife, a girlfriend, you know, a significant other of any kind. Tell me if you did not see a letter, you know, even in the, I mean, okay, say it was a text message in the modern era, but if you saw a message from your girl's ex, whatever, like, and you saw that, yeah, that would
MySpace days. I seen it. Oh, I seen it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it makes them so relatable. And, you know, people can call that cheesy. They can call that whatever it is, but that's reality. Every person knows how that situation feels, and everybody can relate to it. And that's one of the things that they did so well in these classic comics, is made it relatable to everybody. Everybody knew what those emotions felt like, and you could add that in. And it was a great subtext to carry over from the last issue to this issue. So I loved it. It was a very, very fun issue. Very fun issue.
I strongly agree with that. I'm glad you mentioned that, because, yeah, like I said with MySpace thing, I do know what that was like personally. That's one of those things, once again, they really did nail adolescence. This is adolescence, but put into Cape Comics, and it really nails that atmosphere. As you said, the only way you don't feel this way, you got to either A, be super, super duper confident, or you just must be lacking in hard emotion, which you got to be absolutely cold. In my opinion, at least on that. No, this makes so much sense. Yeah, Peter's go back, oh, what's going on here? Ned leads, right, to Betty, because obviously Ned went to Europe, and he's clearly dealing with some issues because he's the stranger in a strange world type of thing. He's the fish out of water. And yeah, Betty is curious. She hasn't heard from him in a while. You know, you're at a point in your life where you're still trying to discover what type of friendships, relationships you want to have. Also, she's still also unsure about what's going on with her and Peter. So it would make perfect sense for her to be writing to someone like Ned Leeds. It would make sense. And yet Peter is getting the attention from Flash's girl, Liz. Even though it's just simply over education, he's still enjoying it regardless, because that's what us geeks said. It didn't matter if it was educational. It didn't matter if it was a flirtation. Any type of attention was worthy of attention, because it was simply attention.
There is not a pretty girl in my high school that would have asked me to help them study that I would have said no to.
You would have said, "Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure."
You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. Like, this is total perfect nerd relationship kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, this is those of us that are, you know, I never mean to say this egotistically, but those of us that are smart, right? Those of us that are generally a step above the average individual. You know, those of us that just have a desire for knowledge and just love information. You know, I talk about being a sponge. I love being an information sponge. I want to know everything. You know what I mean? And that's the same thing with nerds. You ask that was always why the whole BS about girls getting exercised and, you know, gatekeeping and all that kind of BS was always nonsense. Because you ask any nerd, you ask any geek about his favorite subject, whether it be physics, science, math, or comic books, you know, his favorite superhero, Spider-Man, Batman, whatever it is, you want to ask him about that, he will spend days telling you everything you want to know about that stuff. And this exactly represents that, because of course it is the total nerd getting picked up by the pretty girl going, "Oh, would you help me study?" yeah,
Sure. I'll be right over. Anything you need, I'd be pleasure to. Pleasured. And Phantom Outsider, how did Clown range top billing? You know, because he's the clown, man. The same way the Condor is the Condor. The same way that Fancy Dan is Fancy Dan. When they want top billing, they simply get it. And in these neck of the woods, we respect the Condor. We respect Fancy Dan. We respect Slide. And you know what? We're going to add the clown to the list too. We're going to add the clown to the pantheon.
I love it.
You
ahead,
know who
Arcaster.
gives? Oh, sorry. There's somebody here in this issue that gives zero respect, and I mean zero respect, and it's Spidey. I want to point you to the best put down ever by Spider-Man. Princess
What?
Python gets destroyed by Spidey. Dude, Chisel. Oh yeah, you will not hurt me because you are in love with me because I'm so sexy, and the guy is like, if you were Sophia Lawrence with you, definitely are not.
Oh yeah, that comment's hilarious. I had a
Yeah.
comment.
Dude, there's no respect. Spidey just didn't give an F. And I love it.
His confidence was gaining quick.
Yep. But it's direct contracts because if you see when he's as Peter, he's obviously melting.
Mm-hmm.
But as Spidey, nah, that doesn't work with me. It's a
You know, I feel like we should probably also at least acknowledge here that
Oh, we gotta disagree here. Nah, bro. I'm going all the way there. I'm gonna give the. I can understand why you have an issue, you know, with Montana, but no, dude. The clown, he came and decided, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna lead this team. And you know what? They go with it. They freaking go with it because he's the clown. So yeah, he does get the same billing as Fancy Dan. I'm sticking to it. Go ahead, Caster. Sorry.
I just wanted to bring up and point out just how Jameson is being Jameson as usual, because we haven't talked about him yet.
And
oh
Fee,
yeah.
you had a great joke that we sent amongst our group that I feel like is worth sharing to all 20 people in the chat. And shout out to the 20 people here in the chat. Thank you.
One of the things.
If you
One
allow
of the
me
things.
to handle here.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
And so, a short time later, at a plush Madison Avenue art gallery. Ah, yes, Mr. Van der Twigler, one of the finest collections of art in the East. I selected all the paintings myself. They're virtually priceless. You dear man, to be so successful and have such a taste in art, too. How I admire you. Well, now, I hate to brag, but if I do say so myself. And who do we happen to see here hiding behind this pillar? Why, none other than good old Rob Liefeld. Boy, I sure wish I could draw feet like that.
Steve Ditko was looking into the future on that one. Hey, Maddie.
Boy, I wish I could draw feet like that. I laughed so hard when Caster pointed that because I never made that connection ever. I was just like, oh, wow.
That's the thing with some artists forever. You know.
Well, and one of the things I really loved about this too was this whole scene was like a commentary even on like modern art in this day and age, which is one of the things that makes this so classic. Because this is I literally, before I read this comic, I saw a tweet about this earlier from Yellow Flash about how modern art was so dumb because somebody threw like 5 orange lines on a piece of paper and all of a sudden it was worth like $5 million. And like, this is talking about the exact same thing right here about how stupid some of this modern art is, and about how the classics,
Yeah.
about how people that can actually draw will always be appreciated, will always be good.
Well, Ditko was, for those who don't know, was a big. He was an objectivist, kind of a follower of Ayn Rand. So no
Yes, he
hippie
was.
was no hippie, and
I
he
love
did
him,
not
man.
like. He did not like a lot of this stupid pop culture, pop art stuff going on of the day back and stuff like that. He had no time for hippies, and he had no time for that kind of silly, pretentious crap. This is clearly him poking fun at it. And
Bobby,
as
you
he-
just made Ditko my favorite ever.
Oh,
The
you
fact
love
that you
him.
said
He
he was a
was
Rand fan, because
big time.
Atlas Shrugged is my favorite book.
He was pretty staunch about it, yes. And always, well, you'd love his Mr. A and his Mr. A series. But yes, and I love the fact that he not only, one of the things I love about J. Jonah Jameson is he's blatantly Stanley. Look at his face, and he does so much. He says so many Stanley type things that back then no one knew was about. Or later, there's something later in the book we'll get to that I'll point out about that. But yes, he hated Stan's dumb pseudo politics, and he didn't like Stan either. Yeah.
And shout out to Steve Mitchum, by the way, which
Hey,
guys,
yep.
we haven't done it yet, and we're an hour into the show, and we have 20 plus in here. I think it's time to do it. So for all the people here at episode 102, 20 plus in the chat, thank you for being here. And to the few new faces, this one is to all you guys. Thank you for supporting the show. Warrior Justice, thank you for your super chat earlier. Cheers and beers to all of you. Let's continue to talk about great comics.
Here, cheers.
Shout out to Steve Mitchum. Thank you for being here, sir.
Hey, man,
Hopefully you have a good Friday night. I can see that, D-Bud. I can actually see that. That makes a lot of sense. A fucking boatload of sense. All right. So, anyways, Pablo, go on about your thoughts on this book.
There's something about this story that kind of feels different from the previous. You know, the
Okay.
previous was way more simplistic, way more cartoony. In this, the villains are cartoony, are completely cartoony. The story is way more serious and way more structured. So I don't know if somebody had more input, or I have no idea, to be honest. But it feels really a lot more fluid and a lot more structured. I will say, even having that, I'm still missing something. I don't know what. But if you go to number 10 to number 15, the writing feels fresher. I don't know how to describe it. More energetic. The villains are hilarious, and Ringmaster falling for his own hat was absolutely brilliant.
I died.
Dude, that's something that people don't get a lot of credit Spidey for. He finds the most hilarious and easy ways to deal with the villains, and next issue we have something even better. But yeah, just taking the hat and using it right away is, that's perfect Spidey. So that, for instance, I really, really like. And Princess Python being put down, I had to look for the lady that is mentioned. I actually found it. Spidey's right. I will say, yeah, Spidey's right. Lady Python is not near that level of beauty, but it's still, there's a page where she has, I think it's a turban or something that looks like brains at the beginning.
I know exactly what we'll go, but let me go back to it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That was so weird.
Yeah,
it was really weird.
So I was paying attention to her because I thought, well, maybe she has some zombie-like or something ability. I don't know. There you go. It looks like brains.
Yeah.
So I was really paying attention, and her only really talent was trying to seduce Spidey, and Spidey's like, nah, I'll pass.
No. And she's a ginger.
I was going to say, once again, another one.
Yep.
Oh, man.
And I don't care if she's got a shaved weird head and a thing for snakes. It's okay.
There's that contrast. Peter Parker being Peter Parker, and acting as a nerd, and Spider-Man acting confident and actually being the one that puts down the lady. That is really interesting that there's a play in that. So as I say, the writing feels a lot more mature, a lot better, but it's still lacking something.
That was pure Ditko, by the way. He
This
didn't
was
believe in
pure
that kind. He didn't
Ditko.
like that kind. As far as like turning down the lady, not being seduced by her wiles.
Oh,
Pure Ditko. He doesn't like that kind of weakness.
I love that. I absolutely don't. There's times when they have done that with Batman, for example, and I feel like you don't dumb down Batman just by a lady being sexy, even with Catwoman. Well, after his story with Catwoman and actually being in love, and maybe you can take that, but he will still act like a man. Just
No. Yeah, but he did take it a little far when he wouldn't like. He could have easily webbed her up or something. He wouldn't. Ditko would never portray her fighting or punching her in any way. That's of course very, very Ditko as well. But
I love
you got to be able to arrest her, or because she could have just webbed her up or something.
But he just shows confidence, and that's basically her end. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Her master plan was to throw him into a giant snake.
Well, and that was one of the things I really did like about going back and reading this was like the classic sensibilities. Spider-Man's like, I'm not gonna hit a woman. Like I'm not going to beat her up. And that's something that's something you really that's not a morality you see in the modern era anymore. That's one of the things I loved going back and reading that. I thought that's something that really stood out to me going back and reading this, because you're like, holy crap, he's really trying to be a gentleman, even though she's the bad guy. You know what I mean? And like that's a standard to look up to.
But something else to point, you can feel this panel, man. You can absolutely feel this panel.
I cracked my ass up when I saw the fact he just did ding. I care. Once again, it has a ding, 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 cheesy music all over it. The fact that he just basically dunced him in the head, that was it for Cannonball. Was I saying Cannonball? I was like that cheesy name. Hammers his head like it's almost like the Three Stooges. Watching this, it's a very Three Stooges type of beatdown, because it's not really a beatdown, but as far as Three Stooges levels of beatdown is concerned, it's a Three Stooges type of method to beating your enemy. I laughed my ass off, and then he gets a snake to wrap himself around. Once again, it was so cartoon ham, just that cheesy cartoon music.
The fact that he ties the snake in a knot to defeat it, I loved that. And just an FYI, the fact that you mentioned the Three Stooges, all I can think, Channel 32 in Kansas City after 10 p.m. every single night, black and white. We had nothing but the Three Stooges, and then even the Three Stooges and Shep later on. I cannot tell you how many of those episodes I watched.
You're right, Phantom Outsider. None of them could. They couldn't even come close. They all looked like a joke. But it made Spider-Man that much cooler because he's just whooping their asses left.
But how okay, you can go two routes with Circus Freaks. You can go in this route and make them actually really cartoony and fun, or going really creepy and scary. And that was not Spider-Man at the time. So obviously you are going for the cartoony joke, and it works wonders for the characters because, well, the characters are a joke. So
like Spider-Man's never really in any danger here. It's like the only way they could do it is by having her zap his web shooters to sort of negate his ability to use web.
How on the nose. No, you're right. You guys are right in that sense. But this issue gives you that moment where you can have those silly villains to have his moment to just whoop their asses and have I guess you could say more so a piece of cake fight. Because what's to follow is definitely not a piece of cake, and we all know what we're talking about amongst the panel.
And this issue has something that I really appreciated at the end. They really remind us that at this point, Peter Parker is a teenager, and he's actually obligated to the same things as any teenager, including getting home at time.
Yes, because he didn't call his Aunt May.
having out
Dude.
Yeah,
made.
they got so much trouble for that. I loved it.
I
Like his
have been
butt
in that
chewed.
situation, man.
Now, Peter, we know you have to call home. I worry about you.
And you
I
feel the
love that.
seriousness in Aunt May's voice when she
Yes.
says that.
Oh
shit.
yeah.
This
You're
bro,
reading-
this man just here freaking got a snake to wrap himself around himself, and then he goes home to get shut down by Aunt May.
Yeah, you're like this super powerful, hero out there that can like take out giant snakes and beat up the Green Goblin and all this other stuff. And you're like, you get home and Aunt May starts talking to you and she uses that voice. And you all know what voice I'm talking about, whether it was your father or your mother, or your grandmother, or your aunt, or whatever. That voice that makes you feel about
Voice that got your
this
attention.
freaking tall. Yeah, that voice makes you feel about this tall when you know they really disappointed. Oh yeah, reading Aunt May, like, yup. I'm sorry.
And it's again that contrast. In this issue, you have that. You have that sensation, Spider-Man and Peter Parker. And that's really enjoyable. That's when the character shines, and his interaction with Betty in this issue, better. Really, really touching.
I agree on that. No, I want to add one more thing. I love once again, shout out to Steve Ditko, the motions he goes with Spider-Man against the snake. The movements just feel so beautifully organized that lead to the snake tangling himself up. I love the flow of his movements with the snake. I was like, damn, I could see this. And then before you know it, oh damn, he's already tangled up. And the snake itself is just like, ah, shit, that fucking dude got me. So,
Ditko,
anyways,
yeah, he's evolving his perspective. If you see on the drawing on this issue, he's evolving his perspective, and that's working wonders on what he's doing.
So, where do you rank this issue then, Pablo? Amongst the
Heart 8.5. Yeah,
5?
8.5. Yep.
Oh, 8.5. Okay. All right, strong. And since I know Caster and Common haven't spoken on the scores, and Klobby, you're gonna go after these two give out their scores. You're gonna tell your thoughts and your scores after these two guys give out their scores. So, Caster, start off with your score.
So, kind of the one thing that was kind of hanging over reading all of these, that's kind of, I think in the grand scheme of things, is kind of hurt my view of them, is how I've been off reading some like One Piece, which has been a long, progressive
you're
storytelling.
mentioning that. Yeah.
Which, with that, for example, I'm in the mindset of literally a line made in passing 10 years, like 10 real world years ago of the comics publishing becomes super important later. And so I'm going from sort of like what I think is like probably one of the best comics to the more traditional comic storytelling. It throws me off a bit. So I have to kind of get myself into the proper headspace for kind of reading and reviewing these.
No, you're right, especially if you're going off from another type of format. That makes a lot of sense, Caster. I get it. What's up, 70s? Nice to see you here, buddy.
70s.
Shout out to that 70s rock fan. One of the great guys of our atmosphere. Shout out. But go on, Caster.
So I did like seeing little things like the Ned Leeds letter being brought up again, and I know that does go somewhere, so that is something I appreciate seeing. I just kind of wish that was a little more prominent in the Spider-Man storytelling, like I would expect out of something like X-Men, where that was much more the way they were. But that's also kind of like a more of what something comics did more later. So kind of taking in mind, we're back in the 60s. Again, it is the back to basics. I thought it was just a lot of fun with the circus of crime, because it's like, who's gonna believe that like a clown came in and robbed the museum?
I have a counter
Actually,
argument.
a lot of clowns do that.
Yeah.
I can counter that too.
Okay, Iron
Dude,
Caster,
Chicago, many have worn the clown mask.
I have a counter argument based on One Piece. Buggy the Clown.
No. I'm not saying I find it ridiculous for Buggy, but I was saying it's just sort of the coming back to these where it is more episode, where it's more a just kind of more or less standalone storytelling.
Oh, okay, I get you.
Yeah.
But on the silliness factor, One Piece can actually be even
Oh, it
weirder.
could be way sillier than this.
Yep.
Like they literally grabbed Frankie by the balls.
Yep.
Yeah, no, this is fun. Just Aunt May there just glaring at me like, would you hurry up?
That face, man. That
Back
face is
in
perfect.
their time, your cliffhanger was dealing with Aunt May.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's
Carry on,
reality right
Kester.
there.
Yeah, carry on. Nothing
No,
else, Kester? Oh, there you go.
It's fun. I'll give it a 7.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Pablo. I mean, Common. Sorry, Common. And then Claudia
No
will go up
worries.
to unload on everything.
No worries at all. You're good. No, what did I give the last one? A 7, a 7.5? Because I want to give the next one a really
Around
good.
7 and 7.5. Yeah.
Yeah,
you
I'll give
did.
this one a 7.5 then. Borderline 8. And just because of the fact that I love the ridiculousness of the sideshow freaks turning to crime. Like, I absolutely love that. I think it's so much fun. My aunt was a clown. I grew up around a lot of Shriners, so I love clowns. I love all of that kind of stuff. And like, just the fact that, like you said, the story carried on, and the fact that this ends with Aunt May just absolutely chewing his butt and making him feel about this big around. You know what I mean? Like, I thought this was a really great story. Like, it doesn't change the universe, but you know what? This is the kind of, I don't even want to call this filler, because there is a story carrying on a little bit with the relationship issues and stuff like that. But at the exact same time, if you're going to do a filler episode, if you're going to do a filler issue where you're not trying to do crazy things with an overarching story and stuff like that, this is a great one to do, because these are villains that can become classics. These are villains that have already been around before, which is one of the favorite parts I love about these old school issues is, you get that whole little, hey, if you didn't know, these guys were in X issue, if you missed that, so they tell you where these people are from, which I love that kind of stuff too. But it's just one of those things, like, this is a fun issue. This is a great time. It's crazy. It's wild. There's plenty of redheads. Even the crazy evil villain. You know what I mean?
You're not going to let that go.
No, I'm never going to let that go. I'm never going to let that go. I'm never going to let it go. Hashtag Ginger Lives Matter. But it's like, it's one of those things, like, I love it, and like, you can't finish with a better panel than this, especially with Spider-Man. You know what I mean? With Aunt May, just like, what have you been doing? Where have you been? You know what I mean? Like, that's classic Peter Parker to me, because the Peter Parker I grew up with was the Amazing Spider-Man animated series, where Aunt May was always there, was always part of every scene and every episode. You know what I mean? Like, it would feel weird to not have her there. So yeah, I give this one like a 7.5, borderline 8. And that's only because I'm trying to reserve the higher scores for the later issues. But I love this one. This was a lot of fun. This was a great fun issue to read. Just mindless fun. And I like mindless fun. So.
Okay. Awesome. All right, Clauby, go unload on your thoughts on the issue and your ranking at the end, along with this hell of a cliffhanger, if you agree on that cliffhanger.
I do. Well, I really enjoyed it. Of course, I've always liked the silly crime circus of crime or whatever. Thought they were kind of fun. I don't think I could ever have the strength of Peter Parker to turn down Princess Python.
Not even close.
But since he didn't want to like punch her, he could have just wrapped her up in her own python. That'd have been cool. And then I get it. Yeah. I don't know, but look, yeah, it was a fun issue. It was, again, filler's not a bad term, because it was just like a one-off adventure. But I don't necessarily review them as filler either. They do sometimes in the editorial decisions. But if you're building up to a bigger story, I love single standalone issues anyway, and so they're a lot of fun. It was some great Ditko art again, as always. His art is just improving, leaps and bounds over this point. This was one of his key evolutionary points artistically, I think. So it was a fun story. I would give it a 7.5 again, which is solid, a solid comic. I think like Common was saying, I reserve the big ratings for the super duper stuff. But hey, 7.5, maybe a little higher than that, maybe a little bit closer to an 8, for some just extraordinary art. So yeah, that's about where I am on it.
Okay, awesome. Well, guys, that was issue number 22. It's been a hell of a show so far. This whiskey is really good, by the way. How you guys all feeling? How you guys feeling on the panel? How you all
I can
feeling?
tell.
Yeah.
I've been drinking since Culture Casino stream started. The early morning. So yeah, I'm doing. I was supposed to record another video after Friday Night Tights, but I got busy reading comics, and you know what? It's okay. I'll do it tomorrow.
I have a cat.
And you have a cat. All right.
Oh, I love kitties.
More threat. Yeah, I love Diva. I can hear the narration here. More terrifying than Dr. Octopus.
Yes.
More threatening than the Scorpion. It's the wrath of Ant-Man.
Yes.
Blood curdling terror.
All right, chat. There's still 20 of you. Still 20 of you here. Thank you for being here. Are you all feeling alive out there? You still with us? Are you still with us with these Spider-Man comics? Because we got 2 more to go, and then we got to peace on out of here. We got to call it a night, and then next week do 25 through 28, and that's gonna be direly huge. Go let the cat out, I'm guessing. You're good, man.
Yeah.
Are you ready to talk issue 23? Because we're about to escalate a bit. We're about to escalate.
Highlight 70s comment first. The swagger of a young black teenager.
Oh. Oh.
Couldn't resist. Sorry.
And that's legendary.
So, guys, let's get into
Are we ready for
ASM
23?
number 23. And once again, I'm going to pull it up right on up for all of you here. Once
Pull
again,
it
thank
out
you all
for
for
us.
being here.
All right. Ready? Say when.
I
Yes.
will. I'm going to take the front page. You're going to take the intro page. Don't waste a minute. You've got to see Spidey and Ash against the Goblin and the Gangsters. And this is once again, even within, okay, so if you guys have your good memory, I want to point this out before we take it to the first page. We were talking about how we saw an evolution in Ditko's art. I feel like from 21 to 23, I can notice that difference from 2 issues later.
Right.
Look how much
Yes.
more of the body. Look at
That
the
cover's
build
incredible.
of the body. Holy detail on Spider-Man, Steve Ditko. Dude, it like I said, the arms, the shape of the body, it's just so much more like, I don't want to say perfect, but it feels like it makes sense to me, for lacking of better words. It feels like it makes sense for what I would say if I meant Spider-Man being 5'10" at his weight with his muscle. This looks and feels like Spider-Man in peak form. I guess
Yeah,
that's all
but
I can add.
look
to
at the
that.
proportions on the Goblin. That is
Yep.
really. He's a background character, so normally you wouldn't put so much effort.
Mhm.
The proportions and the movement are really incredible.
I agree. I
Spider-Man
love his
doesn't-
Green Goblin. His Green Goblin is starting to
He's
look
great.
more goblin-y too. He's looking more like a very evil looking character, not just some silly character that some people may have probably thought was just some silly character with a goblin suit. He definitely is starting to look a little bit more menacing. Everyone's nailing it in the chat with their comments. Chat, you are killing it with these comments, by the way. Thank you very, very much. And you know what? Since he was last, not only is he going to get to do the amazing intro, but he gets to lead off with his thoughts on the issue.
Hey, Spider-Man doesn't skip leg day.
Klobby, you get to start first.
Welcome, true believers, to the Amazing Spider-Man number 23. Written in the spellbinding style of who? Me. Yeah, that's right. I remember when I wrote this way back in 1957. Or was it 47? Or was it? Never mind. When I wrote this, it was fantastic. So I said, oh, Steve, let's see if you can draw this one, Chucko. And he did. He illustrated in the magnificent manner of Steve Ditko, who I didn't even talk to, wouldn't talk to me. He just drew it and I kind of put words on it. And led it in the frenzied fashion of Artie Simic. Artie, you don't get paid for this, but we like you. Dedicated to the new breed of comics magazine reader, to you, the modern Marvel fan, who will accept nothing less than the best in Saurian art and bullshit from me. All right, so the Goblin and the Gangsters issue, so adequately pointed out. Great stuff, beautiful art. You all nailed it. His art is just growing by leaps and bounds. It's extraordinary work by Ditko. The Goblin has decided to start.
He tries to be a schemer.
Basically, yes. He's going to try to scheme the mobsters and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the kind of goblin he is. It's been a long time since I read this one. I did get a chance to, but other than skim this one tonight. But I love the bit where I love it. I say love it, and it's a little silly on Steve's part. His costume's wet, so he can't figure it out with him.
Yeah.
That won't come into play later or anything. Well, that's not going to come into play at all. You know what I mean?
And that was back when they actually knew how to, foreshadow things, and it actually meant something later. There was no plot holes.
Yes, indeed. So, but I'll let you guys take this, and I'll be right here riding shotgun with you.
Okay. You know what, Commenter? You go ahead, have fun with this issue.
This was so much fun. I got so excited when I pulled this up and I saw that Green Goblin was on the cover. I'm like, oh, we're getting into real serious villains here. Like, I'm like, oh, this is going to be some stakes. This is going to be some fun. Mm-hmm. And that was really cool. I love the whole idea of the mobs, of him going in there and trying to take over all the gangsters, territories and all that kind of stuff. And it's not because I had any of those kind of weird aspirations when I was a young teenage boy or anything like that. But it obviously this is a story that has been repeated over the years. It was probably was first really thought about and shown off in some of these early comics. The idea of a big bad guy, a costume freak, if you will, come in and take over for the mobsters and the gangsters. And like I said, I get a kick out of this scene right here, just of the whole, oh yeah, guess what? Superheroes really do have to wash their costumes, because guess what? Just like any other pair of pants you wear, it's eventually going to get stinky, nasty, and sweaty if you wear it for too long. You know what I mean? It's like any of us that went, especially us teenage boys, any of us that went to a locker room in middle school or high school, we know how this is. And it is a real factor. And that's one of the things I liked about this is it gives them a basis in reality. And that's something you don't see. It's like you see these perfect superheroes all the time where there's never that scene of them. Hey, guess what? You got to wash your uniform, and I got a kick out of that. And like I said, obviously not having to have a plot hole later on, but I love the fact that once again, this is still during the period of time where a lot of people suspect Spider-Man could potentially be a villain during all of this.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. You are saying basically that the Justice League smells like an anime convention.
I'm saying we don't ever see an episode, or we don't ever see an issue with them with Superman or Batman washing his shorts. Now, obviously with Batman, Alfred's the one doing it, and that would probably be kind of boring because it'd just be Alfred washing Bruce's undies. But at the exact same time, yeah, absolutely. I think it smells like a comic book convention inside of the Justice League space satellite. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
I just found hilarious. I was
all those guys have high technology to wash their costumes. Spidey doesn't have anything.
Yeah, actually, they use.
I'm too busy funding crime fighting to buy a washing machine, Alfred. That's your job.
I have found that with the Spider-Man, they do a lot of jokes about either washing the costume or what you need to use the costume. In the Spider-Verse was the baby powder joke on No Way Home. He had to wash the suit, and on the Tobey Maguire era, it's like, yeah, they really think about Spidey and his costume.
And that's one of.
Yeah,
go ahead. No, go ahead. Go finish your thought, Pablo.
Oh, it's something that you don't see in other heroes. Normally Superman has his suit under and he just changes. That's it. Or Batman goes to the Batcave or goes into something that allows him to put his costume, and There you go. Even Iron Man in the movies is just there's a scene when he's on the helicopter and he gets the Iron Man suit and jumps from the helicopter in, I think it's Civil War. Yeah, it's on Civil War. And yeah, you just see the sweet building and everything, but he doesn't wash it. He doesn't really take care of it. If it gets destroyed, he is not sewing and fixing the costume. Spidey's always sewing his costume. That's something that is part of his character. His relationship with his costume is part of it.
Well, and that's one of the things I love because Spidey's so much more of a grounded character. And I know I've heard people talk about that's why he's normie relatable, but I don't think that's really it. I think he just reminds you of what it would be like to be a normal person with superhero powers. He relates to what would be the reality of actually being a superhero. Because yes, you would have to wash your costume. Yes, you would have to have, you'd probably have to find a real job out there. You'd have to be, because being a superhero, unless you're working for the government, doesn't pay anything. You know what I mean? You're just going out there doing it because it's the right thing to do. And I love that. And yeah, and I saw D. Bud Martin bring that up too. And obviously I haven't read the earlier issues of this, but I love how this classic character comes in and makes, and of course, Jonah Jameson being Jonah Jameson is like, oh yeah, I'm hiring him back because I'm being altruistic. No, asshole, you're hiring him back because he's a really good writer and he's a really good investigator, even though he got involved with, some shit that got him sent to prison.
Fred,
you know what I mean?
Boswell, before you continue. Oh my God, Jay Jonah hyping himself up about Fred. Oh, I'm just a good Samaritan. I laughed my ass off at how much Jay Jonah Jameson hyped himself up about rehiring.
Glove is right.
I'm the man about giving you a second chance.
Glove is absolutely right. Is Stanley.
Right, there you go.
Stanley.
Oh, he's so floaty. He's so Stanley. And that's Ditko doing that. I mean, that's he and Stan weren't even speaking terms at this point.
Wow. So this is definitely Ditko's dig at Stan Lee then.
Oh, the whole character.
Also, can we mention?
I love it.
That Fred Foswell, for those who are not in the know, when we talk about the other Spider-Man issues, he also is the big man. We'll just say that he's the big man for a reason. There's a title there, the big man.
And honestly, it was one of those, if I didn't already know who Green Goblin was, this is who I would have suspected throughout the entire comic. This entire issue, I would have suspected this was actually Green Goblin. Because of the way Spidey reacts to him, because of the way his Spidey senses go off when this guy's around. Like, obviously, this is not a good dude. And it's like there's this later scene where Peter Parker's like, I don't know why I'm so worried about this guy, but I even have to destroy my photos that would have made me money where Aunt May's Aunt May's having trouble with the bills. She doesn't have enough money to really even pay for the COD, which holy cow, COD, talk about throwing things back. Pay on delivery, POD, pay on delivery. Throwing that back, you're like, holy cow. But it's like at that exact same time, like it shows you how much Peter Parker and Spider-Man take this guy as a real risk, because he literally just wipes out his entire film. He wipes out all the money he would have made from Jonah Jameson. And then of course you see the scene where obviously he's giving information over to the Green Goblin, which shows you that there's something bad going on here. So yeah, I love it. And then the fact that, Peter's got now the suit's dry. Cool. I can go out and do my job now, yay. It's like you didn't have a dryer in the house. You just had to hang it up. You couldn't have waited till Aunt May went to sleep. I don't know. I don't know what dryers were like in the 1960s. I don't know if they even existed. I don't know. But I loved it. Hey, Inferator. Good to see you, Grim.
What's up, Grim? And what's up, Davina Duckworth? How you doing? Thank you for being here. Nice to see you both here. But dude,
one of the things that Stan and Steve did talk was a fight they had ongoing before. This is, of course, about the identity of who the Green Goblin should be. Ditko did not want it to be Norman Osborn, and that was Stanley's idea. He thought we wanted it to be some schmuck nobody knows, and he hated that he was Norman Osborn. But Stan was the boss.
Wow.
Stan, especially I'm actually glad that we carried.
I hate to agree with Stan, but I'm glad he was Norman.
And that's it. That's what I was about to say was the exact same thing. Like it might have been, Ditko might have maybe had better ideas or something like that, but I do think that Norman
I'm with him on
Osborn
this one. Yeah,
was a good
it
idea.
was a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of you. I think it was a good idea because I think that's something that carried on so much better in the later stories. And then when you have the son involved, and then what was it, the hobgoblin and all of that kind of stuff. Like, I'm glad they ended up going with that decision. So,
I agree. Yep. Strongly agree. So I guess I'll. Was Norman something of a scientist? you know. What I like with the you got the mob involved and you got Norman Osborn involved, and the fact that you see this gang involved and they're trying to work with the Green Goblin, even though they don't really want to. Green Goblin sets up a really good scheme, in my opinion, to get them set up. I'm like, oh, this actually makes sense, and he's trying to do a double. He's trying to set up a whole big scheme so he could run the town, have everyone work for him, and it backfires. I love seeing that, and of course, Spider-Man, he only loses to Goblin, or I wouldn't even call it lost. Goblin just kind of ran away because Spider-Man ran out of web fluid. And you know what? That actually makes sense.
Well, and Goblin ran out of bombs.
And Goblin ran out of bombs. So I was like, wow, that actually works. But I want to highlight once again, and I apologize for getting repetitive, but the action when Spider-Man is kicking the mob's ass. Once again, the timing of the movements. I'm just like, if I were imagining the sequence in my head, this is how it would play out. I'm just like watching him kick these guys left and right, top to bottom. And then he goes to relocate into another room and he calls Aunt May. He checks in. He progress from one issue to another. He checks in. I also got to do a drink for our boy Petey. He checks in. He lifts up the mask and he checks in. Let you know everything's gonna be okay. I'm doing okay. And the fact that he tells her, oh yeah, I just everything's fine here, but really everything is not fine because the mob is right next door. Once again, really great nods at great humor there. Once again, from our creators, I was like, oh, beautiful stuff.
And I agree with you on the action too, especially with like the mobster stuff, because this is exactly what you'd see between a superhero and a person. It's believable. You know what I mean? If he's got web slingers, what are you going to go for first? The guns. Why are you going to go for the guns first? Because that's the thing that can absolutely take you out. You know what I mean? Like your costume isn't bulletproof. It's nothing like that. So what are you going to go for first? And then all the traps that he laid. That shows once again that Peter Parker is a smart person. He's a genius. He figures out all of these traps beforehand and then screws them up. And then screws them up enough and makes them wait off to where he intentionally knows that now he's got a break and he can call Aunt May and make sure he doesn't get his ass chewed again. You know what I mean? Like, I love that. I love that. It's like he was literally planning this from the moment he walked in there. He's like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to web all these guys up. I'm going to get all this taken care of. And then, oh crap, it's 9:00. I gotta call Aunt May to make sure she knows I'm not dead. It's gonna be fine. I'm gonna be late, Aunt May. I'm at the library. Studying, and of course she's gonna believe it because he's a total nerd, So it's like, because honestly, I was one of those nerds that spent way too many hours at the library too, so I can relate, So like, I love that. I love that.
But also think about the trap and the thing that, Spidey runs out of webbing. He literally used it all to catch every single one of the bad guys just to make the call.
All right, before I pass it on to Kessler.
That's a teenager for you.
Yep.
On page 6 here, I have this page for a reason. Tell me the guy in the purple suit does not look like Norman Osborn.
Oh, shit. Yes, it does. The red hair and everything.
Yep.
The hairstyle.
That haircut. Yeah, that was to say the hairstyle. Yeah, the haircut.
I just wanted to say that. Just saying. Just saying.
No, he does.
Just saying, that's all.
Plans within plans, my dear. Plans within plans.
He does. He's got the hairline too. The widow's peak. He's got the widow's peak of Osborn.
I always wished for a widow's peak, and then the Lord just blessed me with a receding hairline instead.
Oh
so I kinda
shit!
got one.
Hold on, I got refill now because 5 picoseconds is here. And 5 picoseconds, one of the great guys within the Gilded community, like Vince Womack before him. What's up, 5? How you doing, man? Hopefully you're having a good Friday night. Thanks for dropping in, sir. Oh,
that see, D Bud Barton. Yep, there you go. I was gonna say D Bud Barton just said that's his first appearance.
That was an unnamed appearance. I did not know that. Okay,
that's what I love about D Bud Martin. I was like, yeah, he's got the knowledge. Hey, D Bud, I'm just gonna put this out there right now. If you don't have any kids or grandkids that appreciate comics as much as you do, I'm just saying, like, and if anything happens, I will gladly inherit them and appreciate them and read them, and I will not bag. I promise I will not bag and board them. I will read them. My kids will read them. I'm just putting that out there right now. That's all I'm saying.
I think
70s.
This was his first named appearance, or unnamed. I mean, he was. And I think issue 14 was his first appearance as. Green Goblin was first appearance, but this is technically his first appearance as Norman Osborn. But I don't think it's named. Is what I meant, not unnamed.
Yes,
they don't name him yet. So D Bud, of course, is always look. If D Bud says it, you know it's going to be spot on accurate.
D-Bud don't lie.
Yeah.
The D-Bud
14
don't
was
lie.
the first 14 was the first Green Goblin, but this was the first.
Oh, of course.
Norman.
Of course. No, of course. You're right in that regard. All right, Caster, go ahead. I know you're ready to unload on this issue. I knew this panel needed to be highlighted before I was going to pass it off to you and Pablo. And yes, you get some of your thoughts with the score too.
Yeah, no, I thought this was fun because like Spider-Man unknowingly outdoes undoes his plan. Like, Goblin thinks he's gonna be making use of Spider-Man to his advantage, but oh no, Spider-Man's actually way better at this than he thought. So he just like winds up rounding up every single gang member on him.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever he thought he was gonna get out of this in the end.
Well, and I love how it backfires on him too. Go ahead. Sorry,
yes.
Aaron.
No, absolutely. That's absolutely what it is. That Spider-Man wins, or well, Goblin loses because Spider-Man's too good.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll meet again, Spider-Man.
Yes.
It feels like that type of comic come from the Green Goblin. And look at him in the background there, just rooting for the
yeah, that's so cheesy. I love it. He's like, I'm just watching. I'm the guy out there waiting.
It looks like his eyes are looking in two separate directions in that panel.
Yeah, he's cockeyed.
Yeah.
Cockeyed Goblin.
I just love that big grin on. I love that big grin on his face. He's just like, hey, I got it. I got him right where I want him.
Ditko has a way with smiles.
It makes him infectious.
No, he's really good.
Anyway, carry on, Caster.
I mean, little things like you were saying, where he's calling Aunt May because she was chewing him out last time, and heck, he even like lifted his mask up this time to make the call, because like I think it was the last issue Betty was saying that it sounded like he was muffled.
Mm-hmm.
It was like there's a change there.
Yeah, with the mask, yeah, dude, right, yeah.
Like it's fun. I'll put it at another solid 7. Like I maybe 8. Yeah, let's give it an 8.
Ooh, he's going. Caster's swinging for the fences now. Okay, Common. I know you said all your thoughts. What's your quick score on that?
8.5. If Ironcaster's going 8, I'm going 8.5 because I love the Green Goblin appearance in this. I think this is great. The fact that D. Bud Martin pointed out that was Norman Osborn in the background, his first appearance. Like, I love this. I love mobster stories. I love seeing superheroes go up against just basic street level mobsters, because this is the thing. This is reality, right? Like if you're facing crime in a major city, whether it be New York, Chicago, Kansas City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, you are going to have to deal with the mob. That was one of the things that even a lot of big moguls, real estate moguls have talked about in the past, dealing with New York. If you want to build something, you have to deal with the mob. You got to deal with the union because the mobs control the union. You know what I mean? So it's one of them situations where this makes sense for him to go up against this kind of thing, to have to go up against this kind of thing. And I loved watching him go up against him, knock him out, just show him that, yeah, at the end of the day, guess what? You're still human, Bubba, and I'm not. And so it was a lot of fun. I give this one a solid 8.5 just because of seeing Green Goblin show up and all the fun tricks and the progression of the hero. Whereas, like I said, he pulled his mask up, called Aunt May. And I'm glad Ironcaster brought that up because that was something I kind of had moved over from. But yeah, it was a very valid point. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one a solid 8.5 because Green Goblin. But the next one, next one's fun.
Oh,
but I
can't wait
probably
to
won't
talk
give it as
about
good
it.
as this one.
That's actually my favorite of the bunch is straightforward. But anyone who knows my history will know why it's my favorite. We'll just say that. We'll cross that bridge. And shout out to my guy TZ Bird because he always does a shout out.
TZ.
How you doing, sir? Drink up for TZ Burton. All right.
I
Pablo,
read the
have
I
at
read
it.
I read a comment from Divina. The mob don't look like any the stereotypes either. Well, if you're talking about the mob on New York, you have two types of mobsters. You have Beanie and Tony. That's it. You have is the same Italian guy with different name, and that's it. So, well,
I get you, Vinny and you, Tony, right here.
It looks like Davina knows the
Yeah.
history. I gotta
yes,
give
yeah.
credit to. I don't know,
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're a guy, girl, Davina, but I'm just saying, like, it's clear you know your stuff when you're mentioning stuff like this. So
Right.
shout out to you.
Absolutely. Davina's definitely knowledgeable.
Knows stuff.
All right.
but
So
yeah,
carry
I
on.
found funny that normally if you think about a mobster song New York, it's basically the same guy, a couple of names, and just a stereotype. And I actually think that's incredible. It's just amazing. Every single time I think about a mobster, I think about an Italian guy yelling, and I love that. But yeah, the issue was actually really interesting because the Goblin finally shows kinda of a plan, taking over the mobsters, taking over the crime, becoming the crime lord of the city. And that's something that if you see his previous appearances were more comic in a way, even when Spidey has to team up with the Hulk. What's well, the Goblin actually had a plan, calling Spider-Man to a place where he cannot swim and he has to face the Hulk and everything, but it's just too cartoony. There's no background. There's nothing to gain. There's really nothing about the Goblin that feels like he has an end goal, a game plan. Here, yeah, he is trying to take over the crime using superpowers and crazy stunts, but kind of makes sense. Especially if you think about the crazy people that are on the mob, like Fancy Dan and the big guy. Yeah, having somebody like the Goblin taking over and using that style to do it is reasonable. At least in this universe, is really reasonable. And the writing actually is really intense, really interesting. So I like it. I like it a lot. The drawing is the best part, though.
Oh God, right? Like, just I feel like we have talked more about Ditko's art in this one stream than we did all of 1 through 20.
Mhm.
Pablo, we have been going gaga
Yeah.
about Ditko's improvement on the art. I also
Absolutely.
love too when he does the order of the movements. That's something that I've seen in the last, I'd say 10, 20 years, maybe even 30 years. If you're confused, let's just say this is your first comic and you're not sure how movements always work, it lets you know the order of the movements. That's good because obviously if you're a seasoned reader, you get it. But for those who are not in the know as well, you kind of need something to help guide you a little. And this helps you realize, oh, okay, I get that now. and
The
then before you know it,
Mhm.
you get invested because okay,
Yes.
this guy let me know how this works, how this formula, how this formatting works. I understand now. I think this is a little thing that matters for people who are getting to comics for the first time. This
He
phase.
guides you through the action, and that's really important.
Yes.
But there's something interesting about the evolution of Ditko. Ditko had some issues with, well, actually with feet, with perspective, with a lot of things at the beginning, even with faces.
Mm-hmm.
So what he did was using the hands to distract. It
Mm-hmm.
was the beginning of the Ditko hands that actually become a staple, and his art gets incredible, but the hands keep going in that direction. And if you see here in the first panel, Spidey is actually doing the Ditko hands. It is the same as Doctor Strange when he is conjuring something. It was just a tactic to kind of distract from what he thought was the bad part of his art with something that was really visually stimulating and work a lot. But no, he's actually mastering the the drawing, and that mixed with his expressivity on the hands and in the eyes on the mask make really intense scenes on the fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the goblin is starting to look less like a cartoon, and when Romita takes over, the first issue that he takes over actually brings the goblin back, and he's again too cartoony with the eyes too open and the face too jolly. No, here the face is taking more a serious note, the eyes are becoming more evilish, and you feel the intensity on the goblin. So the art is really advancing, is really making a progress. And yeah, the last few issues is the moment when maybe the fight had something to do with his ego, and he wanted to really show Stan what he can really do. But things are getting really good. And just
Straight
previous
up.
issue, the face on Aunt May here, Aunt May doesn't look that intense, but in the previous issue when she's waiting for Peter, you can feel the anger. It's
As
basically
Common Nerd said best, you know the sound of the voice when she
yes.
was unhappy with Peter. Common nailed it with that comment. You knew that sound. We all have that voice we hear of the you're in trouble, you're in deep shit, and you're fucked voice. And she had that look of whatever voice
Yes.
that is in your head. You nailed it, Common, with that. And
Dude,
now
they know
this
how to
issue is
drew.
and one issue later, Peter progressed massively with making that one phone call during the middle of a fight before he dropped the web netting on them. Absolutely awesome. And you can feel the difference in Peter's mood from once again from one issue to another. The fact that he's still, despite all his busyness, he's still doing good in school. He's still got issues with Betty and this whole Ned Leeds thing, and he's like, okay, where do I go from here type of thing.
Mhm. I want just to show the incredible level of art that Ditko is getting in this panel that we have on page. The shadowing on the pants, on the posture and everything. It
Yes.
it gives you that perspective of a man actually sitting down on that position. You have that fold of the cloth on the pant,
Mm-hmm.
but then when you get to the leg, actually the cloth gets cut because, well, basically it has something detaining it. The rest is just sagging. Then you have the shadows on the knee.
Mm-hmm.
Is really really good. Just compare it to Amazing Spider-Man number 5 or number 15, 15 even. That's when he actually starts to really go crazy in his art. But just compare it, and you will not have that level of realism, that level of detail. So it's a really really good increment on the quality, and that pose shows you exactly what he's trying to do and exactly the style that he's taking. Ditko at this point was just going big, going really, really big.
Okay. Oh, Clubby. Oh, you gotta back out, sir, and that's
Yeah, I think
totally
I got to
fine.
run, man.
So,
I'm so sorry
Clubby,
about that, buddy.
no, 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 Clubby, it's all good. And of course, I'm gonna say this because you will, even though it's just one more issue, you'll absolutely be missed for this last issue. But,
Oh, I'm sorry,
sir,
man. Yeah,
you
thanks.
you get some rest, you get some sleep, you actually go kill it tomorrow night
I got it.
on Saturday
Thanks, buddy.
night Star Trek, and I want you to plug anything else notable you got
Oh,
coming up
just
our
that, man.
chat.
Saturday Night Star Trek. But I gotta kind of get off of this desk for a while. I'm having some
Okay, man.
issues there with everything, but appreciate it, man. And
All good,
thanks,
dude.
buddies. Great hanging with all of you
Clubby.
and everybody in the chat, my friends.
Have a good night, Clubby. Thanks
Appreciate
for
you
being
all
here,
so much.
sir. Look forward
Thank
to
you,
next week. We're gonna kick
Thank
ass
you,
next
brother.
week. All
Thank you,
right.
bud. All
Look
right,
at those
everybody.
good night comments.
Thank you so much. Good night, everybody, my friends. Have a good one. You take care.
All right. Well,
Night,
so
Clubby.
Pablo, your final thoughts on the where do you rank this comic score wise?
Oh, okay. The story maybe takes a bit more on the score, but I will say with the art and everything, maybe an 8, no, a 9, just because of the art.
Woo!
Gotta be honest.
Wow.
I was trying to make it an 8.5 again, but no, it's a 9.
Okay. So we got one comment here. I highlight from 5 picoseconds before we move on to our last issue. So Common Nerd, is this your first dive into Silver Age comments from 5 picoseconds?
No, not necessarily. Because back when I was kind of getting into reading a lot of the Deadpool stuff before the Deadpool movie came out, I went back and looked at some of the, well, actually, now that I think about it, I actually had a Silver Age. I have a Silver Age omnibus of Batman. Yeah, that I have that I read a long time ago. And it's one of those, it was a little hard for me to get into because I'm used to more modern era Batman. But no, that was actually my first experience of Silver Age comics. I went back and got the Batman omnibus from the very beginning of the Detective Comics all the way through whatever it was. And I started reading that, but this is my first time ever going through like Silver Age Spider-Man. This is actually, I mean, all truth be told, and many of you guys know, that's kind of the reason why Nick brought me onto this panel, is I am the normie when it comes to a lot of these comics. I didn't grow up reading a lot of this stuff. I didn't get into a lot of this stuff. More often than not, this is my first experience reading through the majority. Well, honestly, unless we get into like Spawn or Ghost Rider, it's literally going to be my first time ever actually reading these comics and knowing these stories outside of the animated series that I grew up with, whether it be X-Men, Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, any of that kind of stuff. This is really my first experience going through those stories and learning that, which to a certain degree is going to give me a reason to give the next issue not the greatest rating, just because of that. But at the exact same time, yeah, I mean, this outside of Batman, this is my first goal. And I bought Batman Volume 1 and Volume 2, I think, of the Silver Age, the OG stuff from the very beginning, just because I wanted to read it from the beginning. I wanted my kids to read it from the beginning. So I bought those omnibuses. But other than that, yeah, this is pretty much, I'm a virgin. Touched for the very
we
first
popped
time.
your cherry. We freaking bursted it, and we left the mess all over Dick's Division style.
Nick,
I'm proud of
can't tell
that
you.
trait. I'm
Nick,
very.
Nick, I'm so glad you were my first.
I feel honored. Oh, hey, RJ Godzilla, dude, this is awesome.
See, that's what I'm talking.
Because
that's the other thing. That's the other thing, right? I came to this show because I like Nick, obviously, but also at the exact same time I came to this. But at the exact same time, I came to this show just appreciating the art because I loved the artwork, the OG art from this. Like, this is one of the things, like, Unbreakable, one of my favorite movies. It's a great superhero movie in the ground level superhero normie. And there's a great line in there from Mr. Glass. This is a piece of art. And there are so many times we have gone through these comics, whether it be, the great Kirby stuff that we saw in a lot of the Infinity Gauntlet stuff, or just, even this stuff, with Ditko and classic Spider-Man. Like there's a lot, especially when you get into like the splash pages and some of that stuff that got really incredible and really, epic. Like this is art. And like, even if I didn't know these stories, even though I didn't appreciate these stories, even if I hadn't grown up with these characters, I'd still look at that. I'd still look at this stuff and go, that is better than 99.9% of the art that we see every day. Like I will take classic panels of comic books from all the way going back to the 20s. When this stuff OG started, I will take that over anything in the modern era. And that's what really got me into this show. That's what got me starting to watch, so I love the fact that I'm learning all of these stories. I'm giving the fact that Nick brought me onto this panel and is now giving me the opportunity to go back. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Dude, but I need to show you the Phantom.
Yes, please.
Show you the Phantom.
I love this classic stuff. Like I love going back and reading this stuff for the first time because now I'm in a position to where I can do that. And even with my limited amount of time, having kids and a family and a YouTube channel that I do crazy amounts of content for, like this show makes it to where I read comics every single week. And that's my favorite part. I love it. It's like I got 2.5 hours before Comic Shop Top. I got 4 issues of comics I got to read. Let's freaking do this. I sit down. I read comics for like 2.5 hours straight. I'm like, I love it. So yeah,
that's a good problem to have.
It is. Hell yeah, it's a good problem to have.
So
okay, read good books.
6 Stations, 31 Kings has a great comment here. It says same first experience with Spider-Man was like I said, Dad's comic. You got a good dad by default.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully he was actually a good dad, but at least for the comic side, that's awesome. And some repeats of Electric Company led to live action music cartoons. I was obsessed with this, like, dude, fucking awesome. Six Nations, obviously, is your first time here tonight. I hope this was satisfactory of what you've been seeing for the last years. You're still here. So just like, you must like something. But in chat, we have almost everyone still here from the damn beginning. And we got one more issue to go before we peace on out and go to 25 through 28 with the great D-Bud Martin for next week. But thank you for sticking around. We've had the majority of you stick around. Thank you guys for doing that. And yes, he's hyped because he feels it. He has the drive. He has the energy, the want to be here. That's why he became part of the show. Because when I listened to man put his side of the conversation, I was like, I literally asked these guys, Pablo, Caster, can attest. I said, guys, I think he should be part of the show. What do you think? I straight up like I want him on, but I even asked these guys. I'm like, what do you think? I asked them before I even talked to comment. I knew. I'm like, he has it. He has it.
From the minute I heard him, from the minute I first heard Jesse going, I don't want to say not the rants, but when he was giving the passionate speech about Infinity Gauntlet when we were reading it at the time, the way you were breaking it, I'm like, we need this guy.
Thank you, Iron. I appreciate that, brother. And dude, you've opened me up to some really incredible things too on more of the Japanese, like, because like I said, I was a Power Rangers kid growing up. I watched all that stuff, and you're like, oh, dude, let me show you all the stuff that was based on. And I'm like, now I'm like, shit. Oh, dude, he does. And now I'm like on Tubi going, okay, where's some of this Sentai stuff that I can watch? And I'm sitting here like, I spent like 4 hours on a Saturday afternoon watching like all this Sentai Tubi stuff. And I'm like, this is fucking great. I'm so glad I met these guys. This is incredible.
By the way, they are still putting out, like, to this day. There has been
I love it.
Year, and the current series is amazing.
Yes.
Are we ready to talk about the last in my personal favorite issue? I think Casa knows why this is my favorite issue. He knows why, and I think Pablo knows too. We don't spoil it for the common nerd. We don't spoil for the common nerd. But this is my favorite issue. We already know why amongst the other two panels why it's my favorite issue. but we don't spoil that for the common nerd. And please, commenters in the chat, don't spoil for the common nerd. We don't spoil for him. We want it to be a genuine, authentic surprise. So please resist if you can. Guys, let's talk about the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, number 24. The last issue for tonight, and then we can all go on home and say the bar is closed. So
Last call.
Yeah, this is it. This is the last call. This is the last chance at the dance. So
I was in the snacks.
no, the
Actually,
Condor
half the
does
whole
not
day.
make an appearance, and Fancy Dan does not show up, and that's a genuine tragedy. But you know what? One day, and I said this many months ago, I'm going to do a video on my favorite, absolute worst villains. And you already know, if you're a Comic Shop Talk loyalist, you know that some of those guys are going to be in the list. You already know that. So for the normies, it's going to be a shock. But if you're someone who watches these episodes, you already know who the list is, basically. So, whew. All right, guys, this is it. And once again, another fantastic cover from Steve Ditko. And you know, it's kind of deceptive in retrospect. It's very deceptive because when you first look at the cover, oh, okay, he's fighting Vulture and Sandman. But then you get into it, you're like, oh, like Transformers, there's more than meets the eye. Da 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 da. I had to throw in that reference.
Transformers.
Spider-Man thinks he's going insane, and he hears about this guy named Ludwig Reinhardt. And this is where I'm going to subtly connect it to current day. He seems to be a guy who's a therapist, and because he is licensed in his field, people automatically say, oh, he's the be-all, end-all of his opinion because he has the credentials, so to say. So you had to say he must be the beacon of opinion just because he has a certain license to his name. And I thought, wow, this issue is unintentionally prophetic to something that has become commonplace in certain
what you are saying,
certain institutions will say.
Yep.
Certain institutions where we've seen that happen, where because one man says one thing, he is the be all end all. You have to just take his word, even if he has no means to prove it. Just take his word for it. And it's an opportunity for J. Jonah Jameson to not use the guy who's the licensed therapist, but also use the people's word. And this is where I'm like, man, this stuff feels like wow. Because you see a lot of comments when J. Jonah Jameson says, I'm going to get these people to go against Spider-Man. Why need my voice when I can have the people do it? And he gets very weirdly, once again, unintentionally prophetic when the reporter there is going off about all these people who are talking about how bad Spider-Man is, and some people are kind of getting influenced by, like, wow, look at all these people who hate Spider-Man. Maybe he is a bad guy. It shows you the power of propaganda, but also how one-sided propaganda can be, because Flash Thompson, the unsung hero of this issue, is like, hey, all you're doing is hearing from one side of this problem. And he goes running up to that reporter, like, hey, and the guy's like, oh yeah, I ran a film. No, you didn't. You didn't want to hear the side that could challenge the other side of the goddamn argument. I thought this issue, I'm like, man, this issue has so much relation to current day with all of that intact. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, like, I'm sure at the time this just seemed like another solid issue, but in retrospect, oh boy, this issue aged more than it probably ever intended to. The fact that Spider-Man starts to see things, he goes to seek therapy, because even when he's at home just being a good old Peter Parker, he's going crazy. He's sweating bullets like the Megadeth song of the same name. And then he goes to the house and he gets the attention of Dr. Ludwig Reinhardt. He seems like Dr. Ludwig Reinhardt. until a certain reveal happens, and like, it makes so much sense, dude. And the fact that and even that guy, because I'm not gonna say his name just yet, he's just like, I knew this was a perfect plan. Even my perfect plan couldn't get Spider-Man to fail at his own worst. And the fact that Spider-Man overcame those odds, and once again, it's all right in front of you. It's all right in front of you, and still you got deceived. That just goes to show you the power of that. I'm going to say that villain. That villain. And I'm going to say for this issue, between the suspense of it, and once again, Steve Ditko's amazing art, because I'm just going to boast about it. I'm practically boasting. I'm going to give this issue my 9.1 out of 10 on this issue. So obviously, it has my favorite Spider-Man villain, which we will get to later on. I'm going to let it now pass on to Ironcastle. Who's ready? I can tell he's ready. Go ahead and go for it.
I was gonna say you're gonna give it the Nick Weiser CGC grade of a 9.8.
Oh, straight up. Straight up.
Yeah, no, I agree with you largely, kind of in retrospect on this one. Just the fact that you have this kind of fairly prescient story here of Jameson going out and doing having proper journalism done, as only Jameson can do, or CNN. It's a part of the story I was actually more interested in than actually the Spider-Man stuff for once, because I'm like, oh, I want to see more of this stuff. I want to see Flash Thompson like stepping up for his biggest hero, the hero in the world that means more to him than anything else, Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's always great.
Yeah, he wasn't just like a 2-3 pages at the start of the comic. Like, no, he's like there throughout the book.
No,
I can't
Fancy
wait
Dan
to
is
have
nodding.
D-Bud on next week. We're gonna have such a good time with D-Bud on for the next few weeks.
Nick, we need to get you to get a Fancy Dan Halloween costume.
You almost make me want to. I'm not
It's
gonna say
doable.
that's the saddest part. That's one of the best parts, is that I actually want to. I actually want to.
Okay. Oh, wait. I've got a really dumb idea. I think it's great.
I love those.
Okay. For those of us who do camera, we do a Fancy Dan contest where we each try to come up with the best Fancy Dan costume.
Ooh. I don't even know what Fancy Dan looks like.
Okay, I don't have a purple suit, but I have a black suit with lines.
Oh, I do. I have a fedora. Suit. I'm not joking, too. I have a purple suit. Remember that photo?
I envy you.
I can't remember if it was here or Toxic Tuesday, but I showed off the purple suit I owned that I went to a wedding 5 years ago with my buddy Dan. Shout out to Dan if you're listening, Dan. Good buddy from Chicago, West Side. And him and I was like, Dan, I need you to be my +1 to this wedding. And he's just like, I'll be there. And he showed up. I got my purple suit on. And it was at one of my other friends' weddings. And I got so obliteratedly hammered. Like, seriously, I made so many bad decisions with how drunk I got.
Well, that's weddings.
Yeah, that's weddings. But Dan, one of the best guys I know. Dan's the best guy, and that was the first time I rocked that purple suit. I got that purple suit within 1 week of the wedding, and I ordered it without testing the size fitting of it off of Amazon.
Dangerous. You're living a dangerous life.
You want to talk about what a dangerous life I lived doing all that? The fact that it all fit perfectly and into place. It worked. Somehow it fucking worked, but carry on, Caster.
Who's going to dress up as Montana and who will be
Okay,
Oh, you guys. Oh, carry on, Cassie. I know this is tough.
I'm just thinking about that now. I'm like trying to look up Montana. I'm like, oh, can I even like find a cowboy hat?
I live in Texas. I'll ship you one, dude.
Oh,
I can like get those at the gas station down here.
nice.
But just kind of think about it. I mean, seeing that he's still using like the spider lights and that is always great in this part of this. But like I said, the site, the Daily Bugle stuff with the journalist is, I think, far more interesting because it shows like how is it that, you know, Jameson can keep people like whipped up into the "we hate Spider-Man" thing. When, like, you know, you would think eventually enough people would see him saving the day that they might start to think otherwise. So seeing him just outright sort of whipping up the fervor of this, of the crowd is, you know, it's consistent. I like that. Also, I like the interaction there with Betsy.
Yes.
You know, there was just kind of this playfulness to it where he's sneaking in, he's having this little playful banter. Like, it feels like, you know, almost like something I could have seen with like Clark Kent and Lois Lane.
I can actually see your point of that. I can actually see that. Yeah. Carry on, Caster. You're killing it, dude.
And it, you know, putting aside all the years of comics and stories that have come and gone since then, I can see where they're still kind of have Peter in this place where it's like is Peter actually going to wind up getting with Betsy or maybe Liz? Because they keep kind of bringing her back in to give Peter this turmoil of teenage love interest with the older woman who seems to have his attention. And then, of course, yes, the reveal of the villain at the end is really clever, actually. The fact that they don't like really...
Right?
Yes.
Right? Thank you.
The fact
Thank
that
you.
for once they didn't put it on the cover.
They had every right to put on the cover, and it's so been fun in terms of execution. But the fact that they did, I don't know who made that decision. I don't know if it was Lee, Ditko, editorial, whoever made that decision. You smart ass son of a bitch.
They give you clues. They give you a couple of clues on the cover.
They do. No, you're right. You're right. But before we pass on Pablo, Casser, give that score so we can pass on to Pablo.
You know, the more we've kind of sat and talked about this one, it's been going up. I'm going to give it the 9.
Oh, yes. I almost want to punch my screen.
Wait.
I'm not going to do that.
Wait for it. 0.5.
Oh! Boom! Shakalaka. And what's up, Jay Picasso? I see you here in the chat. Welcome to the show. All right, Pablo. Go ahead.
Well, it's a well-planned story. It is a really good story, but I have a simple issue. This should have been a two-parter, if I'm honest. If they have just let you in a moment when Spidey is hated by everyone, and that's it, and then you come to the next issue and you have all the fighting and actually believe that, well, maybe Spidey is actually going bananas, and then you have that reveal at the end, just that cliffhanger will have been way more powerful. But other than that, this is a stupid good comic, man. They keep you in the mystery a lot. They give you some clues here and there, something to chew on, but they never really truly give you this is the villain until the big reveal, until the unmasking. And I actually thought that was really, really good. That pacing was really good. I just needed something in the middle to break it, so I could hang a little more on the story. I could chew on it a little more. The art is at this point is getting stupid. There's a drawing of the face of J. Jonah Jameson that is so detailed, so perfect. And he's just with his hand on his face, and you can feel that. You can feel his absolute anger and despair. And I just
Notice how
love
I'm not going through the pages as gleefully as I normally do. There's a reason I'm not doing that for the normies in the chat.
Look at J. Jonah there. That shit eating green. It's not a full smile. It's just like, hey. It's just that detail is. I don't know. The drawing is actually becoming really powerful, really realistic, even though it's still cartoony. The sensation is more realistic. I don't know if you understand what I mean. So I love that sensation, and that panel of J. Jonah Jules with his hand on his head, and it's great. It's absolutely incredible. I don't know if I can say too much before going to nerd because I'm avoiding the reveal.
Right, it's such a good
Yeah, I'm
payoff.
dancing around.
Tell
Obviously,
me
you
this
see-
isn't a fantastic issue without telling me this isn't a fantastic. Seriously, come on. You
Dude,
can't deny this issue.
Yeah, they were
Even
giving
with
you
my
clues.
bias intact.
During the whole issue, they are giving you clues. Every single bit, they are giving you something that you should understand. For example, the cat. Exactly. The cat is absolutely an incredible way to tell you what's going on without telling you shit. But when the action is in, the cat is there. When something really, really crazy happens, there's something that is on the frame but is not the center of the frame. The action is the center of the frame. I thought that was really clever, really good. As I say, the drawing here is really the key of this issue. Other than that, let's go with
Go
common
ahead, give
nerd,
your-
and then we can go through the reveal
give your
and the plan.
score before we
Okay.
do get through common nerd.
9.5. I agree.
Oh, okay.
Just
All right.
yeah.
What? Finish your thought.
It's
Finish your
just
thought.
that small bit of I needed more, something more, just a little bit more, because the way that they handle the story is just exactly it's paranoia.
Yes. Oh man, 60. I hope you come around for more shows.
But
You are fucking killing it.
the part of the paranoia that I love is not about the villains. It's about Spidey noticing that the world hates him. Feeling that with all the villains coming, but is not the normal. There's always an asshole like J. Jonah that thinks that he's evil. There's always somebody that says, no, maybe he's evil or something like that. But here is hatred.
Oh,
So,
straight up.
letting
Straight
him
up.
stew on that.
It's what happens when his emotions consume him.
Yep.
It's what happens when he's so invested with his public hatred for Spider-Man that he gets the common folks of New York City get involved, but his emotions as well. And it backfires on him in the worst way possible. Oh, does it backfire?
That's the greatness of having an intelligent villain. That is playing with the hero.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and like I would say of all superheroes out there, Peter Parker is the most self-conscious, is the most like hyper aware of himself. I mean, what is his motto? With great power comes great responsibility.
That's right. No, you're right, Gester.
And so to have this sort of mental assault on him like this works perfect.
We're gonna have a next great 4 more weeks of this. I can tell. We're right off the bat. We're having so much fun with these Spider-Man issues.
It is getting better.
It
There's a couple of
really
issues ahead
is.
that
All right, Pablo. Thank you for your time, score, and insanely amazing observations. Before we pass it on to the commenter, who's going to be the last reviewer of this show, I want to have a few great comments. D-But's a favorite Spider-Man villain. I didn't know Fancy Dan was in this issue. Dude, the great Fancy. Oh, man. We got to do a Fancy Dan commemorative tribute at the rate we're going. Oakley Vandal is a great comment here. Says, J. Jonah Jameson was my first look into media bias. It really made me aware that a single man could propagandize an entire state. This is the difference of what happens when you have credentials put to your name. And I'm not saying that as a knock on people who, as a whole who have credentials, because there are people who do have them that are good at what they say and do. There are. And that sucks also for those people who are good at what they say do, because you have people who abuse that power and they use that and abuse that to their advantage because they're the one who has the paper to their name. They abuse their, for lack of a better word, privilege, and they're like, okay, well, I have this to my name, so I could say whatever I want, do whatever I want, because I have this reputable thing to my name. I can abuse that. And it has become commonplace in modern media. So yeah, straight up, Oakley. And Sean Mount says, and what's up, Sean Mount? Hopefully you're doing well. Nice to see you. Says Betty is older. She had to drop out of school and get a job.
yes,
I am aware of the part where she had to drop out of school and get a job. But as far as I'm aware, she's somewhere around 2 to 4 years older. If you got anything to show me otherwise, I am open to being proven wrong, because I'm not one of those guys who says I'm right and anything I say is
no, but
right.
actually, yeah, at the beginning, she, I don't remember exactly in which issue, sorry, but it's in the very first issues. That yeah, when Peter is going to the Daily Bugle, comes
Yeah.
up that Betty had dropped from.
Yes, but that wasn't expressive of her age. That
Yeah,
was
I don't
expressive of
recall
her
it. Yeah.
viewing her situation.
She doesn't really say I drop this year, so maybe she dropped before. But Peter and Betty knew each other from high school. So
I
yeah,
guess.
and
Oh,
they
here you go.
state that she
RJ
drops.
Godzilla thought the same thing. I always thought. See, I thought it was like 2 anywhere between 2 to 4 years. Okay, so you know what? Maybe we all have some homework we got to do on that, and that's good. That's good. I'm not one of those people who has to be right. I'm not. I'm down for learning from a mistake or being objectively wrong, and say, okay, if that's the information, if that's what actually is, okay. I'm not so tied down to my emotions of being right, but I would like to know. But Sean Mount, I appreciate your comment, and that means you're thinking. That's what I appreciate of your comment, is that you're thinking about this and you're really trying to look into this. That's good. So even if it is right or if it's wrong, you're looking into this and you're thinking about it. So I appreciate that comment, sir. All right. The Common Nerd. You not only get to have the final talk about your thoughts on this issue, your score on this issue, but the big reveal and whether you did or did not see this coming. You get to unload it all, my friend.
All right, so I'm going to premise this by saying I did not expect the reveal at the end.
Oh,
But okay, but at the exact same time, I also haven't read issues number 1 through 21 either.
Okay.
So at the exact same time, I'm going to be the contrarian here, and I'm going to disagree with the majority of you.
Okay.
I honestly like this panel right here. I loved the story. I loved a lot of the nuance in it. But from this panel right here, I knew exactly what the story was. I found it very predictable.
Okay.
And maybe that's just because. Maybe that's
Go ahead
just
and
because of
finish.
the fact that
Go
maybe
ahead and
that's just because of
finish.
the fact. Yeah, maybe that's just because of the fact that I've seen this story done time and time again throughout stories, and maybe Spider-Man was the first one to do it. I don't know, but the whole delusions being pushed on somebody into their mind by somebody else, it's just a story I've seen a million times. I mean, what was it? Supernatural has done it. Babylon 5 has done it.
Well, then that means this issue beat them all by 30, 40 years each.
Right. And like I said, I'm premising that by saying this might be the first iteration of that kind of story. But at the exact same time, from that first panel where we saw the illusions, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew that this was just going to be Peter Parker being crazy, that this was just some bad villain putting these ideas in his head. I knew that's what it was going to be.
Who it was?
No, of course not. I didn't know who it was.
So the villain still got you.
Well, the villain didn't surprise me when it was announced either, because I know, well, here we go. Everybody, here's your surprise. Here's your little big villain reveal at the end. It's Mysterio. Okay. What is Mysterio?
Of illusions.
Right. The master of illusions. What is Mysterio known for? The master of illusions. Right. Mm-hmm. So it didn't surprise me at the end when it was Mysterio. You know what I mean? But at the exact same time, I loved seeing Flash Thompson essentially be the hero in this story, even though he hates Peter Parker but loves Spider-Man. I loved that how he was more the hero in the story going all the way around. I loved at the end where he's like, ha, Jonah Jameson, you helped out the guy that you hate the most and you didn't even realize it. And if you would have let the bad guy, if you would have let the villain go for 10 more seconds, you would have been able to ruin Spider-Man. But because of your own arrogance, because of your own narcissism, you didn't let that happen. And because you wanted to be right about absolutely everything, you got what you deserved. I loved that aspect of it. And so there's a lot of parts of it I really loved. I just thought the story overall was predictable. And like I said, maybe these were the first ones to do it, but it's a story I've seen a million times before. So that was my only real issue with it. Obviously, the artwork is still incredible. It's the stuff I grew up on as a kid. Obviously just this scene right here, it makes you think of a million scenes you've seen in the past. I mean, how many times have we heard the stories about how did they do the upside down room in Inception? They literally just flipped the camera. They literally just, that's all they did. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, like I knew exactly what was happening with every single scene that you would think that everybody would be like, oh my God, Spidey's losing his mind. And I'm like, I already know what's going on. So when he walked into the psychiatrist's house, I was like, okay, I know.
Ludwig Reinhardt.
Yeah, Ludwig Reinhardt, who turns out to be Mysterio. It's like I already knew what was coming. And same thing with this scene. When I saw it right here, I was like, okay, I already know what's going on. And like I said, maybe that's just because I'm a kid that grew up watching massive amounts of fantasy and sci-fi and supernatural stuff. Like you see these exact same kind of storylines repeated. It's the exact same storyline where you see the main characters get stuck into a psych ward, right? And they think they're crazy. They think what they've been fighting, the demons, the angels, the hell, the gods, whatever they've been fighting. Oh, it's all just a crazy thing in your head. You're just nuts. So it's just Moon Knight, right? Yep. But there, like I said, there was an episode of Supernatural that was the exact same thing. They were locked up in a psych ward, and people were trying to convince them that the demons and all that kind of stuff weren't real. You know what I mean? So it just it felt like a story that I'd heard a million times before. So it didn't really have the impact on me that I think it might have had on a lot of people that had never heard a story like this. So I'm saying if this was one of the originals, if this was the first time that we'd really ever seen a story like this, I can understand the impact. But as a guy 60, almost really 80 years later, I'm like, this is a story I've heard a million times. So it didn't really.
It was far from the first that you've seen in her. I understand that.
Right.
That's a fair argument. That's a very fair argument.
So it didn't give me the impact it did.
Order of things.
Right. So
now,
it's like one of those. Like,
go ahead. Go finish your thought.
All I was going to say was overall, I would give this one like an 8. It's a great story. It's incredible for what it is. I love all the side characters in this one and how much of an importance they make in the overall story. Like I said, I didn't predict Mysterio at the end, but at the exact same time, I didn't read Mysterio's first appearance either.
Oh, well, that's good. So that means they got something out of you.
Right, absolutely. But like I said, it's just I was reading through this like literally right before the show. I was reading this last issue right before the show, and I'm just like, okay, I already I got to the point of where he sees Sandman, and I'm like, okay, do I even need to read any more of this? I already know where the story's going. I already know what's going to happen. And honestly, my favorite part of the end is with Aunt May, like doing Aunt May things, so it was like one of those situations where like I get why people would have been amazed by this at the beginning, but it like I said, 60 years later, I'm just like, all right, cool. I know where the story's going. So yeah, I give it an 8. I still love the fact that I didn't know that Mysterio was coming. I love the fact that all the side characters were great. Obviously the art, I mean, this is Jonas Jameson classic. This is the Jonah Jameson that we all know and love, the cigar in his mouth with, the white hair that I'm starting to get on the sides of my hair too. I totally get it. I love that. But like I said, I thought the story was predictable. So
okay, no, I get if you're coming from that format. So okay, and RJ put, of course, damn it, I thought it might have been the Controller, even though he's an Iron Man villain. I feel the RJ Godzilla. I actually know who the Controller is, and yeah, and D-Boy can attest to knowing who the Controller is. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see the compare-contrast.
There's other villains that use that technique. If you think Doctor Doom actually has used something like that.
He has a variation of it, yeah.
Yeah, and the Chameleon has used tech like that to mess with the Spider-Man. So I don't think the story was actually that new. If I remember correctly, there were the stories, something like this on Batman, on Mandrake, on Doctor Strange. So
definitely not Doctor Strange, but I mean, it may have occurred a few years later in Strange, but Batman most likely, because Batman had 20 years on Strange and Spidey.
Absolutely. So there has been.
Look at this scene right here, real quick. Go back up for a second, Nick. Look right here. This scene right here shows speech. Right, but at the exact same time, if you look at the art, you see right here that the cat was the one providing the visions right there from the very beginning. It was all the cat. None of it was ever real. And then you've got a fake bat right here that's doing the exact same thing. So like I said, it just felt predictable.
You've seen it.
Yeah.
But okay, I want to ask you, do you think that the execution of it was good?
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think the execution's great. It's exactly like you would see in this kind of story. And it's one of those things. It's just my issue with it is I've just kind of gotten burnt out on those kind of stories of, the hero's crazy. None of what he believes is real. No, none of what he's fighting is real. Like I've kind of gotten tired of that story.
And that's a fair argument. I
exactly.
I understand your point.
Okay,
yeah, it is a Scooby-Doo speech. Go ahead, Pablo. Finish it.
If you remember, I say that I wanted this divided in two, because if you had at the beginning just people hating on Spider-Man, it feels a lot more weight. When you go to the part that he's fighting illusions and everything, and shit is going, okay, I can see where this is going, but if you make it more him going insane, he actually getting really, really preoccupied with his position, with Aunt May really believing that he's evil, with even if you go with even Flash thinking that he's evil, okay, that will make
red
him
face on him in that one panel where he's like all red faced. I was like, is he really changing? And then of course it switched back to the next panel.
but I needed that. I needed just to hang more on that sensation. So later you can argue that he actually is starting to fall apart in the second issue. But here, being so compressed, so compacted, you have too much of the Mysterio part without having the society part that is the one that actually weighs more on Spider-Man. Because, well, he is actually trying to fix that. He has been on a PR campaign for the last 20 issues, trying to fix his image, trying to stop the lie from J. Jonah Jameson. And the only time when he actually falls from his morals is when he fabricates evidence that corroborates that he is evil for J. Jonah Jameson.
Right.
So,
One.
yeah,
So
that part.
Pablo, what's your actual score though?
I maintain my score because of this issue was basically for the era, for the time,
Okay.
exactly what it needed to be. But if you go for something more mature, something more, I don't want to say modern, but more thoughtful, you will have let Peter Parker suffer a lot more and have the fighty stuff less, because it's the less interesting part of the issue. But even with that, the reveal and everything and the way that the story flows, I maintain is a 9.5 for Spider-Man for this era. It was
Wow.
great.
Okay. Wow. All
One of the cool
right.
things that I got a kick out of this is I didn't know Spider-Man had a spider signal. I'd never
Oh
seen that
yeah,
before.
he uses
Oh.
it on
Yeah,
22
and
too.
I got a really big kick out of seeing that over these issues. I was like, oh, there's a spider signal. And I
Yeah.
loved how he used it. He would use it to distract people sometimes. And like I love that. I thought that was really neat because that was something I hadn't seen before. But yeah.
Actually, that's why I got really happy when I saw the spider signal on, I think was Homecoming, when he's trying to mess with the web shooter and the spider signal goes to the
Oh
roof.
yeah, it pops out. That's right.
Yeah, because he's literally from the beginning of
Yes,
Spider-Man. You
it
have had
is.
that. I think it's issue 2 or 3 when he uses it first. So it has been there for a long time. Actually, he uses it as a flashlight and things like that. So yeah, it's really cool seeing it. And also the webbing that hardens. That's something that in the cartoons, on the 60s cartoons, they did a lot, but on the first comics, Spidey did a lot. He had that webbing that hardened instantly, so he will make any kind of a tool, and it will just pop out of nowhere. So he will shoot, and he will have a sword or a shield or a ping pong racket, or not racket. How is on English? Well, the paddle to hit the ball. He will create anything imaginable just there and there because he had the hardening webbing, and they stopped using it because maybe it was too convenient or it was too silly. I don't know, but I miss that. It was stupid and fun.
All right. And Davina, Duckworth has a great comment here. Says, yes, Oakley is right. The story is written for kids, so there is going to be a preponderance of action instead of internal psychodrama to advance the plot. You know what? You're right. You're right. That is definitely something. It wasn't until the Silver and Bronze Age where they started taking the what would be kids that turn into teenagers or adults and take them into consideration because they were taking that generation seriously, who was there first, and say, okay, now they're teens or adults, so we got to take them more seriously. And if you happen to be a kid, you could still get into it if you were a kid. So yes, I see where you come from that comment. Okay, well, guys, once again, I want to add one more thing before we wrap this up and plug our channels. This issue happens with Peter, and once again, and Com and I had a back and forth about this. Peter gets Liz Allen, just the fact that he's having a whole, I'm having a date where I can educate her. And the fact that it's a date of any kind, of any measure, he is happy with that. And you know what? He is more than just taking away. He's like, I'm good with this. I'm happy with it because that is his specialty. And the fact that anyone's willing to listen to it, he's gonna fucking shoot for the stars.
Well, and that's
Shoot
one of the things
for
that I got to keep.
bloody stars. And with Liz Allen, that was a big thing. That was a big thing for him to take because Liz was dating Flash Thompson. For him to have Liz's attention any way, shape, or form, that was, for lack of a better words, wait for it. Yeah.
Oh, but at this point, Liz had already dropped Flash. They have that fight when okay, I don't remember the issue. Sorry. Basically,
Okay.
Flash tries to fight Peter and actually punch him, and Betty just drops Flash, and they never get back. So basically, here Betty is free. No, Liz is free. Yeah,
Yes.
they kept continuity pretty well on early Spider-Man. It was after 100 and something that they went completely bananas.
So
Well, I really like this ending too. I love this with the whole Peter Parker still being the teenage angst kind of kid that he is, looking at this going, well, I'll show her. She's still writing that guy. So you know what? I'll go hang out with this girl and I'll make her jealous. And I'm like, I love that because that is exactly
That's us.
teenage thinking. Yeah, that is us. That's absolutely
That's
us.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so I really, that's one of the things, like I said earlier, even with the rating I gave it, even with the issues I have with this issue, I love the ending because it still shows you how relatable these characters really are because they're us.
All right, guys. Once
With
again, yeah, as Andre of Midnight's Edge likes to say, and with that,
Nick, I'd like to
next
before we
week,
plug ourselves I'd like to
plug ourselves.
show us just a little
Ew.
for what's to come.
Literally.
That's right, folks. Spider-Man goes to Japan, and oh no, J. Jonah Jameson happens to go along. Spider-Man, let me show you all about these Japanese comics.
Straight
me
up.
show up.
Since
Means-
Splatoon didn't exist at this point, I will say that's Bukake.
Yeah, that's Bukaki. Yeah, Bukaki.
Cool. No, Andre is smooth. I can never do the Andre voice. I'm
And
not
with-
Andre. I'm Nick Weiser. Andre is great for being who he simply is. But guys, thank you for supporting the show. It seems we even got a few newbies in here tonight, and hopefully you like what you saw. And you come back for more. And not only do you come back for next week's episode where we talk issues 25 through 28, I'll have a video fresh out in the morning about what's going on with the Steve Ditko estate versus Marvel Comics and Disney. This is a big deal. And if you're someone who pays attention to stuff obsessively, you already are in the know. But if you're someone who's just like, oh shit, what's going on here? There's some smoking gun type of details in there. Smoking gun with the estate of Steve Ditko, Gene Colan, Larry Lieber. And for those who are not in the know, these are some of the original OG creators of Marvel Comics. There's a lot of stuff going on the legal side with Marvel and Disney versus the estates of these creators. I did a video earlier about what's going on the Steve Ditko side. And believe me when I say, this is a smoking gun. This is a smoking gun. So keep your eyes and ears open out for that video. I'll have it fresh out in the morning for you to watch. I have a few of my viewers who are able to catch a quick link to watch it before I unlisted it before the stream started. We're at it's worthy of conversation. So watch that video out in the morning, and I'll have another video on top of that out Monday morning or afternoon as well about comic book shops. I've been on a comic book video binge lately, so that's the deal. So that's what's going on my end. Comic book videos tomorrow, Saturday morning video, Monday a video as well by noon, and Toxic Tuesday. We're talking the Chuck Norris great movie titled The Hitman. And if you have not seen The Hitman, it has Chuck Norris with a mullet. If you have not fucking seen The Hitman, change whatever it is you're doing tonight and or tomorrow and watch The Hitman. Meanwhile, you can find me on Comics Division's channels, Yelling at Park Cars Thursday Night Throwdown, and on Tuesday and Thursday night, Midnight's Edge After Dark, and whatever appearances I end up having between now and forever, whenever, wherever that may be. And I'm going to post a link to our Gilded community because we have the greatest community on Gilded ever. I'm going to say, seriously, I was talking with Culture Casino, and he's like, Nick, your Gilded section is wild. And you know what? Oh, Eric K for $2. What's up, Eric K? My friend, if I ever come back to Vegas, it's straight for Eric K. That's it. I'm not gonna lie. Gary, you're great. Jeremy, you're great. But I come back for Eric K. Not joking. Not lying. Not being sarcastic. I come back for Eric K for $2. And Eric K for another $2 says, who? I come back for Eric K. Love you, man. Eric K. Love you, man.
Legend.
All right. Let's plug channels because you know what I'm doing next week. And once again, if you're new here, hopefully you like what you saw and you come back for more. Wherever, whenever that it is. Oh, you're making that invitation, Eric.
Glad it's June because that sounded pretty gay.
No, on Toxic Tuesday, that fits right in line because that's the gayest stream known to existence.
Oh, I love that. Some of those streams are so good.
Hey, no, let's talk, Vince. You know, I'll always welcome your input, always, without question. All right,
Vince is a great Gilded mod. Vince is a great Gilded mod.
Vince is the Gilded king, straight up king. So if Vince has something to say, you're gonna fucking listen. All right, guys. Once again, thank you for your super chats, Eric K, Warrior Justice. Thank you for plugging the channels, Eric K, as well. And for everyone who's listening here, most of you stuck around. Thank you very, 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 very much for doing that. Appreciate it. Newcomers, oldcomers. Well, we got a panel who needs to go home and go to sleep. And I'm going to drink more before I pass out. So we're going to let the common nerd start off with plugging his plugs.
Oh, you want me to plug? I got a lot of plugs. No homo.
Come on, Biden. Plug your plugs.
Yeah. So Monday through Friday to 11 a.m. Central Standard Time stream, tomorrow morning prep. I put out videos pretty much 5-7 days a week sometimes. But the couple of cool ones that are coming up right now, we got a Sunday stream where we do a Bible study. We kind of basically try to reiterate the fact that basically anything that's going on in pop culture right now is absolutely nothing new. History doesn't just repeat itself, it also rhymes. If you go through the Old Testament and look at a lot of the kind of same stuff that was going on in there, you'll see a very familiar things that are going on in modern culture. But the cool thing that one of the other really cool things that I'm doing is on Monday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Sil Abdul and I, who, if you guys are into DC leaks at all, Sil Abdul is a great guy for all of that kind of stuff.
Yes,
he's got a lot of great, reliable sources. The reason why I started following him, the reason why I became friends with him, is because he's right. More often than not. He was
right on the George Clooney leaks. And even though him and I want to add this in, even though him and I have strongly disagreed on the Zack Snyder stuff, he is reliable for his sources. And because of that, by default, I will defend Sil because he got way too much flack that was uncalled for, even from some Snyderites, and that was uncalled for. he was right on the George Clooney links, and that pissed me off because like he did not deserve that. He was right and deserves absolute vindication by default. Carry on, the common nerd.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
I had to add that in because
no, I'm
not
glad
fair
you
to
did
him.
because that's one of the things. I do pop culture and all things nerd through a common sense lens, and I do my best to report on absolutely everything, right? Like I'm trying to be the Entertainment Weekly, I'm trying to be the Variety, I'm trying to be the Deadline for the parallel economy, right? And one of those things is reporting on rumors. And I always make sure that everybody knows when I report on rumors that this is a rumor, but this is a rumor from a reliable source, whether it be Sil Abdul, whether it be Geekosity, whether it be WDW Pro. When it comes to Disney, that's the kind of stuff I report on. But like I said, Sil's become a good friend over the last little while that we've all been doing this kind of stuff. So on Monday, we are taking a page out of the comic shop talk and kind of modifying it a little bit. We are going to be reviewing once again. We're going to do our follow-up because we already did a review of 1 through 3. We are reviewing the Justice League animated series. Okay. So we already did episodes 1 through 3 2 weeks ago, which is on my new channel, The Common Nerd Live, which I'm going to be posting all of my live stuff on that channel from here on out. Hopefully I get some time this weekend where I can take my daily shows yet.
Cartoon. Sorry,
Nick, you're more than welcome. Sil's going to be with me on Monday. We're going to go through episodes 4 and 6 because we already did 1 through 3. My buddy Diesel will probably be joining me as well, and whoever else wants to come in. Nick, if you can join, by all means, please come in.
I would love to.
Yeah, it's a really great time. It's trying to same thing we're doing here with comic books tonight. It's the exact same kind of thing that we're doing with the animated series, reminding us when the stories were good, when the heroes were heroes, when Batman was Batman, when Superman was Superman, when Wonder Woman was Wonder Woman. You know what I mean? These are the characters that you know and love, created in a way that is absolutely phenomenal. And very well done. And literally, it's stories practically literally ripped out of the comic books. So it's really good. That'll be Monday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So come hang out with us on that. It's going to be a really good time. We love doing that stuff. Love reminding about the good days. But at the exact same time, like I've told everybody, I praise the good stuff. I roast the bad stuff. Unfortunately, right now, most of the stuff is bad, which is why we're going back and remembering the good things. So come check me out if you want to listen to me rant and rave about all the horrible things that are going on, but also the exact same things I'm excited about. Like I said earlier in the stream at the very beginning, I'm excited about the Babylon 5 animated series. I think it's going to be really good. I trust Straczynski when it comes to Babylon 5. So there's a lot of good stuff coming out. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Don't ever forget that. I am a blue collar YouTuber. I am doing my best to do this full time. So please, if nothing else, come subscribe. We just crossed 3,300 subscribers as of today. I think we're at like 3,302. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. So I've been grinding my butt off, making videos, making shorts, trying to grow. Yes, I'm grinding, baby. I'm grinding. So yeah, come check me out. We do a whole bunch of stuff over there. If you like live streams, I got plenty of them going on. Come hang out. It's a really great time. Obviously, as always, Nick, my fellow panelist, Ironcaster, Pablo, Clobby, I cannot thank you guys enough for this. You guys are giving me insights. You are giving me information. You are giving me an education on all things classic comics. And I cannot thank you enough for that because, like I said, I'm an information sponge, but at the exact same time, at the end of the day, I just want good stories. And these classic comics, these classic cartoons are incredibly good stories. And in this modern era, that's exactly what we need to hold on to. So shout out to all the chat for being here. You guys have been absolutely amazing. To quote Drunk 3PO, I cannot thank you guys enough for letting me on here. This has been an incredible journey. So thank you, Nick. Thank you, chat. Thank you, panel. Thank you, chat.
Thank you, man. I love having you on. I love having you on since we added you part of the show. When I heard you talk, I knew you were it. Once I got the green light from the guys, I knew the rest is history. And Oakley Vandal, like he says, like you got his attention, man. That tells you everything. Even from opposite ends of the spectrum, you guys attention. But dude, you have a great night. You have a great weekend. And after the show, I want to talk about when you have your live shows so we can work on some Justice League shows, okay? And Pablo, carry it on. And I'm going to go potty. And in case I don't come back in time, carry it on to Ironcaster automatically. Caster, I'm gonna have to probably give you rights to my channel shortly after, in case I don't finish on time. Finish.
I promise I won't abuse them too much.
Lies.
Who was waiting for that? Okay, so tomorrow, Mi Desecha Español, where I don't know what we are talking about because shit has been whack. Everything that is going on Disney, everything that's going on Warner that is selling stuff, Embracer selling stuff. Embracer actually really worries me because it has sold a lot of things to Amazon, especially the Tomb Raider rights and everything else is going to Amazon. Remember, Amazon has been looking for the rights of the Lord of the Rings for a long time, and who has it? Embracer. So yeah, that has me worried. That's a situation that I want to discuss a lot. And well, there's a lot of crazy shit happening, including I have heard reports from the new Jennifer Lawrence movie that is good. Is that possible? I have no idea. I hope it's not. Why? Because the world doesn't need more Jennifer Lawrence, to be honest. Other than that, well, Minas Edge, no, Minas Edge After Dark, the shorts. We have been doing the Ninja Turtles cards for the movie, and it's up to number 17. So if you want to hear Tom in his elegant voice talking about the Ninja Turtles, it's a really fun time. I'm enjoying doing those shorts a lot. Other than that, I don't know. So Ironcaster,
Oh,
it worked. It's magic.
I was part of that too. Why, hello, friends. This is Ironcaster here, and this has been a wonderful night to talk about some of the adventures of the wacky web slinger himself, Spider-Man. I believe it or not, I actually have some videos coming out here. Well, I have a live stream tomorrow anyway, where I will be sitting down with Brandon the Anime Guy for our monthly stream, where we will be going over some more of One Piece. This time around, we'll be delving into the Barate and Arlong Park for where I think is probably the best place to really see what this series has for its potential for the emotional hooks.
Mhm.
It's a series I highly recommend. Yes, 1,000 chapters is daunting, but how many issues of Spider-Man are there?
Good point.
How many
point.
issues of Superman out there? How many issues of Batman are there?
Well, if you count all the other spin-off series for Batman,
Mm-hmm. But the comics and manga aside, I'll also be on with the T-shirt historian tomorrow for the Weekend Geek, where we will no doubt be talking about whatever Wizards of the Coast did this week.
A lot.
again,
Oh, I'm sure they did something. As well as on with Snowdub for the Cotton Council, where our fine cotton brothers are having their fun.
All right, Caster, thank you for holding it down while I was able to pee. That was
well, Nixon's relieved.
dude. All that alcohol. It did a king number. Anyways, Caster, Pablo, Common, and shout to Clobbering Times. Thank you guys for all. This has been a fucking, I dare say this is one of the best episodes we've ever did in 102 episodes. So thank you guys.
God bless
Thank
you.
you for supporting this show. 102 episodes in, newcomers, old comers. Thank you guys very much. And yes, join Gilded. If you haven't, please join it now. We have a great time on there. Vince Womack is the Gilded King. TZ's prominent 5 picoseconds. Bruce Lombaro, part of Toxic Tuesday. lot of guy, Christian DeLorme. So many good faces I'm missing. I'm sorry for those I did mention. You already heard my plugs. Plugs. We'll see you next week for ASN 25 through 28 when we have D. Bud Martin on here.
Awesome.
It's going to be huge, and it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be huge. All right, guys. This is the part where we say good night. Thank you for being here. Seriously, newcomer, old comer, thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
You're still here? It's over.